This is a coping mechanism podcast.
This is a coping mechanism podcast.
This is a coping mechanism podcast.
Are we recording?
Yes.
Why do you do this every time? Greetings, one and all, and welcome to another exciting episode of This is a Coping Mechanism podcast. I am one of your hosts, Ted, along with my wonderful friend and co-host,
Bessie, as always, and join us in how we cope with things through this satire life of ours with movies, media, mystery,
and more.
dun dun dun. And you guys get another variety show today.
Wart. See? And I know what you're thinking. You put no variety in saying wart over and over again. And I would say, so Bessie, what's going on?
How have you been, my friend?
I've been doing good. I've been good.
Yeah? You look good.
Thanks. It's, it's weird. I'm not used to people saying that.
Aw.
And
I know, I always feel, I know we're close, so I can kind of maybe comment on, like, your body, even though when I have, like, clients come in, I can tell they've lost a lot of weight. I never know how to say to somebody, oh, you look skinnier, but it's not like you looked bad before, but I'm also like, are you sick and you're not trying to lose weight? Like, you don't know the dynamic, so I'm like, maybe I just shouldn't say anything. But for you, I know you've been on this journey of losing weight, so I also want to remind you that we see it, and I know it's probably a lot harder for you to see it, but it is there.
yeah,
So I could, even if I saw you like a week ago, and you look different.
I don't really see it,
Right.
which I'm told is very common.
Yes.
But like, I don't know if you ever said his name on the show, but your boyfriend,
Yeah.
Personal friend of mine, you kind of know him.
My man.
But I went over to your house the other weekend and we
had
hung
family night.
out. Yeah, we had our little family night. We had some
BDSM tacos and watched the thing 1 and 2, but I was not up for it.
if it makes you feel any better, Alex fully passed out like halfway through the thing too. And I had a really weird thing where like I was like fully conscious talking and then I fully lost consciousness for I don't know, like 10 minutes, and then I just got up fully conscious and I was like,
What happened?
I just blinked my eyes and they were like, you were fully asleep. I was like, no, I wasn't.
I think
they were like,
I think it was only Sebastian and him staying up the whole time.
yeah. And
I also worked that morning and I didn't get a nap, and I've seen The Thing also so many times, and it's not a super fast-paced action-y movie.
yeah.
So I kind of was just like
I was like
as soon as it started, I was instantly like,
when you went to bed, I was like, I thought we were doing karaoke.
I really just was like, we should have just done karaoke and nothing else.
Yeah.
So we'll have a karaoke only family night.
But we could talk about The Thing and the night and all that stuff. But
yeah.
the reason I brought it up was because Sito,
Mhm.
as soon as I came in, he was just like, whoa, you look like you've really been losing weight. And I was just like, Sito's just being polite, because that's what I automatically assume if someone's like, oh,
we'll
you're
just
being
say it
polite.
to
But
say
but then he started touching me, and I
He
was
also
just,
hasn't seen you in a minute
Yeah.
compared to how often I see you and Alex.
that's what I was thinking, is that like, I was like, oh, that maybe, you know, and he was just like,
Because I'll tell him, like, yo, they're losing weight. And he's like, really? But he hasn't seen it. So it's, like, way different when it's in your presence of, like, oh, shit, yeah.
yeah. And then I was just like, maybe I have been. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, but yeah, it's hard to see. It's hard to accept. But, hey, I guess it's working.
It's working.
I guess some people are noticing. The weirdest one, because I've had as a lifelong career fat man.
I was wondering how you were about to face career today.
Yeah, as a lifelong career fat man, my weight has yo-yoed many times, and then some points into like extreme. And the weirdest one I ever had was, I was at my friend, my best friend Chewy.
That guy.
Yeah, that guy. Oh my
That
god,
one guy.
I meant to tell you. So you know how we were talking about his Instagram the other
Yes.
day? Have you seen it?
No, it's private. I can't see it.
Oh,
I've just seen it pop up as, you might know, and I'm like, that dude looks familiar.
I told him about our conversation, and then he texted me. He was like, hey, go look at my Instagram, and in his name he put in parentheses Ted's best
Oh my
friend.
god, I love that. I
It's
gotta
like,
say,
why
that's
would you
hilarious.
do that? He was like, so she knows, and I was
She
like,
know- I knew, but now it's extra confirmed, and now everybody knows.
apparently.
That's
Anyway,
funny, though.
but I was at a barbecue at his house, and this was like a few years ago. Whenever I was doing this like crazy diet, and my weight had dropped. I think that was the most extreme I'd ever done, and I lost 100 pounds in 3 months.
Oh wow, yeah.
And then I was severely hospitalized shortly thereafter. So don't do that. But
For anyone wondering.
yeah, for anyone wondering, if you don't eat and work out cardio for about 7 hours out of your day, you will probably be hospitalized. Anyway, but I was just like hanging around, and it was a lot of, he was working at a prison at the time, and so a lot of his like prison guard friends and coworkers and their families came out, and then there were all these women who I'd seen before in like barbecues, but like months before, but then they all just came up to me, and then were just like, oh my god, what are you doing? And I was like,
what's your secret?
no, they said, what are you doing? And I was like, I was gonna get a beer, or maybe a hot dog. And they were like, no, with your body. And then I was like, because you got to understand that I don't,
that's
even
not
at the time,
yeah.
I don't think that I look all that different.
Yeah. Dysmorphia, baby.
Yeah, exactly. And then I was like, I'm standing here. What the? And I was like, is there like a problem? And then this lady was like, you look like you've lost a ton of weight. Like, a lot. And I was like, oh, yeah, I guess. And they were like, so what did you do? And I was like, oh, it's crazy.
It's
crazy. Eating? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, I stopped doing that.
I don't participate in that anymore.
Yeah, and like to a dangerous degree. And then I realized something. The more experience I have with dieting, especially when you're like, is that everyone always wants like a secret. They want like
they want a fast working secret. What do you do?
Yeah, it's like no matter what you do, they're like, but how'd you really do it?
Yeah.
And then I'm like,
drugs.
Yeah, like, you didn't actually lose weight, did you? Where's the tapeworm? How much apple cider vinegar do you drink in a day?
How much did it cost? And do you know a guy who knows a guy?
Where are the scars? And then when you're just like, no, I just did this, you can just like tell how much it deflates some people.
Because they're like, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, they're like, I don't want to do that.
But it's like any magazine or now on Instagram or whatever you see, it's drink this tea and it'll make you skinny, and I'm like, that's not how that works.
Yeah,
and just because a tea makes you shit your life out is not healthy either. You don't actually have 50 pounds of fat and shit stored in you could just poop out.
To me, it's all a water scam.
Sure.
Because most people don't seem to understand how much weight you keep on as water weight in a day. And I deal with this talking to my dad about dieting a lot, and where he'll be like, I started this new diet and I lost like 20 pounds in a week. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense, but it's all going to be back on.
Yeah, it's not like actual fat burn.
Yeah, it's like, if you don't know, a normal person like yourself probably has about 5 to 10 pounds, sometimes, like, if you're really bloated, 15.
Yeah, that you can just, like, hold on to.
Yeah, of water that,
Salt.
If you drink a bunch of vinegar and tea diuretics, you will shit and pee your brains out, lose that
all
weight.
The good stuff.
Yeah,
too.
You'll feel like crap.
Yeah.
But you will be thinner for a brief time, and then when you stop and you eat,
go back to normal.
Yeah, you drink you eat some salt and drink some water. It's all coming back.
And I know that because, what year was it? 2016-ish, 2017-ish, like right after high school. I don't know what it was, but I think we've just learned it's like a generational thing, and how your gut is like your second brain and holds on to like a lot of trauma. I kind of like find out I'm having like a lot of symptoms of like IBS, but it was like constantly going to the bathroom, where I was like 90 pounds.
Damn.
Because no matter what I ate,
You just couldn't hold
I
on
could
to
not. So I wasn't holding on to nutrients. I wasn't holding on to anything. So, yeah, people were like, "Oh, you're so skinny," but I'm just like, "But I'm not healthy."
it. And you're like,
And I'm not trying to shit
"God."
10 times a day. Like, trust me, that's not fun to do. So that's like the opposite end of like,
Yeah.
you can't do that either.
I,
Not that I was trying, but
yeah, but some people they
Yeah,
do
yeah.
like they
I've-
take laxatives with all of their
exactly.
meals, and
Or I used to work with a girl at Sport Clip. I used to only watch her eat like Skittles and like Diet Dr. Pepper, and we didn't really get a lunch, so I just assumed maybe she's just like running on sugar for the day.
yeah,
Even though that's not good either, and she was as skinny as my fucking pinky right here. Until I
that's pretty
realized, until I realized walking into the break room one day, I saw her eating. Well, sorry, I saw her chewing chili cheese tots from Sonic, and then I watched her spit it out. So she would shovel in like the tots, and I just kind of watch her, like not even like she's not even like hiding it, just she just wanted to taste it. And that's when I realized, oh, you have an eating disorder. She would do the same with cupcakes. The frosting, she'd kind of lick the frosting, then spit it out. And I was just like, ooh, that's... And then, then I realized, oh, you're that thin because you have body disorder and you think you're fat. So you're not eating. You're just relying on sugar just for energy, but you're not getting any nutrition. And that's why your body's like... But she would also, like once a month, she'd always tell us, hey, if I'm in the bathroom a little longer than normal this month, it's because this is the week I just take laxative. And I'm just like, problem.
the week?
You got a problem, baby. But like, it's just something they have to get through,
I can't, like, I tried believing.
Like, you couldn't eat laxative every day and just think you'll be healthy and lose all this,
I tried being bulimic for a while. Yeah. Well,
but you know that clearly.
Yeah, but I never really saw it as a problem, and part of me still doesn't. I've been yelled at repeatedly by friends, but like, I know exactly whenever I picked up bulimia is whenever I was a kid. It wasn't to lose weight. It was because when I was a kid, we didn't have any money, and there was it was 4 brothers. So whenever we would go out to eat, it was always to buffets because it was the most cost effective.
Yeah. Makes sense.
But there was a rule, there was a stipulation even as children that we had to eat so many plates of food in order for it to be financially viable that our dad would tell us. And if we didn't eat as much food, it wasn't, we get in trouble. So I remember
it's just instilling this problem.
Yeah.
At a very young age.
I don't understand people who don't like self-reflect. I know why I have problems. I really get it, and I'm like, they're still there, but I mean, I know where they come from.
Self-aware, yeah.
But I remember like being like, I need to eat another 2 plates of food, but I'm so stuffed. What am I going to do? And then I was like, I know.
Yeah.
I'll go outside, vomit profusely, and then come back inside, go to the bathroom, and then I'll go eat again.
Yeah. Oh, man.
And then I started doing that, and then that was like... And then I remember my dad being like, you got the money's worth. Good for you. And I'd be like, yep.
Thanks, yeah.
And then later on down the line, I would be like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with throwing up. And then it became like a tool. It's like, oh, I feel kind of bad. I'm just going to drink a bunch of water, go vomit. I'm like, oh, I feel better.
Yeah, exactly. God.
Yeah. See, when I talk about that, I know it sounds crazy, but it doesn't to me. But when I look at people and tell that story to them, they get this look in their eyes that's
just
like
concerned.
So concerned and sad.
It's concerned because I feel like when you're telling me these things, or when anyone tells me something of the sort, I just feel so much like empathy for you as a kid and how that's now like, something in your toolbox.
Yeah.
If you want to, say that. So that's why I'm like, oh, fuck, that sucks that you as a kid were just like, this is how I have to cope and do this, and it works. And I'm just like,
yeah.
Owie.
Okay.
Don't fucking touch me.
We don't have to make this like an emotional thing. Oh my, you know.
You're right.
I tried being bulimic for real like a couple years ago. I couldn't do it. It's just too stressful.
Of course, it's stressful on your body, your
Yeah.
mind, your teeth,
Timing. You know.
timing.
The teeth did get me. It did mess up my teeth a bit. And then but I was like I always like had to time. Is she snoring?
She's no.
For our YouTube listeners,
You're welcome.
yeah, Alora the dog is snoring
Taking a
profusely
nappy nap.
on my leg, and she got some moist jowls that I feel. Anyway, but what were we talking about?
That you look good and it's working and you're doing
Thanks.
it the healthy and more sustainable way.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's going. It's definitely going slow, but I think it's only going slow compared to crashing and stuff.
Exactly.
But
Slow and steady wins the race, and eventually your body will naturally get to a point of it's just gonna take a little bit longer to drop that, but it's still dropping.
yeah,
You know?
I do notice that of like I'll go week to week and I'll still lose some weight even on weeks that like I had a day where I went out to eat.
Yeah.
Or if I made some bread and ate it. And then I'll be like, I still lost 3 pounds this week.
Yeah. It's still
Cool.
working. Yeah, exactly.
And I don't want to die like I did
yeah.
a month ago.
Right. For sure. And that's what matters, the sustainability of it, the feeling that you're feeling.
Speaking of, so this is gonna, like we said,
It's a variety show,
You
baby.
keep going.
You get what we get.
Yeah, you get what you get. I do a lot of because eating healthy can be expensive.
Of course.
So I do a lot of like research and development and like hunting to get the best deals to save the most money on food, and I've got it down to a science.
Nice.
But every once in a while I find a deal that I'm like, ooh, I got to get that now and get it in my repertoire. So I found these deal on protein bars. There are these Special K protein bars, not sponsored, but you're welcome to. And
you're gonna be the next Subway guy for Special K, but not a rapist.
yeah, not a hard pedophile.
Yeah.
That's the dream. He I
He
always
had it all.
yeah.
And then he just was
Whenever
awful.
I was a kid, I did look up to Jared because
I feel like there's no spokesman as big as he was.
yes.
Because even all those little, what was that other big commercial based like lose weight? It wasn't Lean Cuisine. It was the other one, Weight Watchers.
Yeah.
Even those ones weren't as drastic as this guy, Jared.
I remember him.
And who doesn't like Subway sandwiches? Like
Yeah,
in the idea of
exactly.
like a sandwich.
I remember like even when I got older and I looked up what the actual diet was before all the pedophile stuff, and I was like, I could do that.
Yeah.
Like when I got my first job, I was like, I could totally do this because there's one right down this road.
You can walk. You can just eat this. Yeah, exactly.
And then all the pedophile stuff came out, and I was like,
yeah, that was a documentary I was even like, oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
but
yes, the good
Anyway,
deal on the bars.
so it was a box was like was $12 for 6, or you got 2 boxes for $5.50. I don't know if it was like a mistake or something, but it was twice as many for half the price, and I was like, oh shit. They weren't like the best ratio, but
Hey,
they were
a good deal.
yeah, it was a good deal. It was like 180 calories, 12 grams
Yeah, easy
protein,
snack,
9 grams of fiber. Good go thing, which is why earlier when you asked me like, hey, do you need to eat lunch? I was like, no, because I had a protein bar.
I
so
had
I'm
a
good to go.
protein bar.
So this is not a story to talk about how I found a good deal. This is a story to talk about how a friend of the show, Sebastian, is a fucking nutcase.
Really?
So
As always.
as always, so I like a good deal.
Yo,
I appreciate
we talking
saving
about
money.
good deals. Sebastian is.
Sebastian, he hounds them and just
lives for that.
yeah. So
What is that called? Being kind of
frugal.
frugal. Yes.
Yeah.
He's very frugal.
I would.
He's so generous with like if you need help,
yeah.
but when it comes to just like like coupons for places we go eat. I'm like, where the fuck did you even find this?
Yeah, and it's a, I think it's a cultural thing.
It's it's a generational family
Yeah.
thing too, because everyone in his family is like that. They're so generous. If you need money, they're like, sure. But when it comes to like buying stuff, going out to eat, it's like, oh, I have a coupon for this, and this. You're just like, oh, they make stuff like that?
Yeah, and it's like, so
You just went on this one website and found this one little article, and you just print out this fucking coupon. What the fuck is that?
And you did all of this?
Who has
Like,
time for that?
like, yeah, and I just saved $8.
Exactly.
So so we have a thing where like I think I have a healthy relationship with saving money,
Yeah.
and he doesn't.
Mm.
We know people who don't care about it because most people don't care about it.
Yeah.
I like it, and I get like some, oh my god, I get a kick out of it. He like gets into that nitty gritty obsession
Yeah.
over it.
Like extreme coupon. It's like a high almost that
Yeah.
you get from chasing a deal.
So I tell him about it. I texted him the deal, and I texted him the stats, and I was like, hey, this seems pretty good. And then I ordered some,
Mm-hmm.
and they come in, and then a few days go by, and every week we get together and we have dinner and hang out and whatnot. And for our YouTube watchers, you'll see my other dog Willow slightly off screen, who's yep, there she goes.
There she is.
And
maybe you gonna get up here or not?
for our normal watchers, you'll know Alora is a somewhat small, pretty calm, sleepy dog. My other dog, Willow, is a giant white monster who is just a beam of chaos and is now laying on my other dog. Anyway,
We'll make it work.
yeah, she's
Already
she's
a 4 today.
Yep. So a few days go by. He comes over for dinner with my friend Shuey, and I'm like, hey, do you want to try one of these these bars? And he was like, oh yeah, sure. So him and Shuey, they each split one of the different flavors, and they try them, and then they talk about it. And he's like, yeah, this seems like a pretty good deal. And I was like, yeah, it's like 48 cents, pretty good, and I'm just like, yeah, whatever. And he was like, yeah, I think I'll get some. I think I might get some. And I was like, okay, sure, whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm not thinking about it, so then I start talking about other things, and he's like, so where is it? And I was like, dude, I sent you the thing. And then he starts going into it, and then he keeps like, now he's finally, that he's tried him, he's like paying attention to it. And he's like, how many of these do you think I should get? And I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, I got this many.
Yeah.
And, it seems like a lot, but it's fine. And then he proceeded to go, okay, how much do I need to order to get free shipping? And I was like, you have to spend $35. And he was like, I could do that. So then he was like, hey, can you order these and I'll send you the money, because I don't want to make an account.
Right.
And I was like, I guess, but
like, you want this deal, but you won't make an account.
and I was like, okay, sure. So then I order them. He sends me the money, and then she was like, I think I'll get some too. Can you order me some? And I was like, fine, sure. So then I put in another order for a case of these things. And when $35 of these things, if I did my math right, was like 150 protein bars.
Oh, so yeah.
And so then I go, okay, you guys each ordered a case of these things.
Yeah.
Whatever. And then he goes, like 30 minutes pass, and he's like, how much can you buy at once? And I was like, I don't know, I ordered you this many.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, can you check? So then I look, and then you can max out at like, like 100, maybe it was 150 or something like that.
Okay.
I don't remember the exact numbers. The point is then he proceeds to, and I was like, to keep ordering and ask me stuff, and I was like, I don't know, I'm not gonna look it up. And he was like, why not? And I was like, the same reason why you didn't make an account and order it, because it's one step too much effort for what I'm doing. And he's like, okay, that's fair. Yeah, I shouldn't have done that. So then for 3 days, I got a a notice on my card and on my account of being like, because every day he would call me to have me order him another case of these protein bars, and they stopped letting me order them, and then no matter how if I put them in my cart, they would just pop up as out of stock because it was like, hey, you're buying too much,
buying a
something's
lot.
wrong here.
Yeah.
And then my bank called me and was like, hey, we've noticed that you have for a week straight the same purchase amount from
God.
this store. Is everything okay? And I'm like, yeah, it's fine. And then they're like, it just seemed because you're getting deposits this for the same amount. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. It's fine. They're like, okay. And then they just kept doing it to where I did the math, and I had 4 cases that I gave to him, and then you just coming in today got
I grabbed the boxes from outside.
so that big box
Is protein bars.
5 of those.
Oh my god.
And I did the math, and I think he got at the end, like end all be all, something like Shuey got 1 case, and combined it was like 600 or 700 protein bars for this one house. And I was like, and then he called me again. He was like, hey, do you think that's good? And I was like, they're out of stock. Stop.
Yeah, don't fucking ask me
They're
anymore.
gone now.
You
They're
bought
fully
them
gone.
all.
It
You
won't
bought them
even-
all.
They won't let me out of my car. It won't even let me look at them, so they're gone. Just leave me alone. And I was just like,
That's so insane.
so, you know,
You've been busy.
I guess.
Oh man.
But yeah, and you know, other than that, that was wild. But you know, just don't judge your friends, because I get it. You know.
We all like a good steal.
But like, I've been eating them for like a week, and I'm like,
Done.
I'm like, I'm glad I got as many as I did for like just to have.
Yeah.
But they're not.
They're not that fucking good.
They're not. They've lost their appeal at this. And it's only been like a week.
God, that's
Can't
funny.
imagine filling up a damn closet with this stuff.
No, fuck no.
Anyway, so what's been going on with you? You've been going out. You've been doing stuff.
Yeah, I've been working, the huge, getting back to routine since the holidays. Now it's fucking February, which is crazy.
Stop snoring at me.
Making some art, doing some commission pieces. Then yeah, we've been going out a little more to kind of like these electronic kind of dance clubs, which super fun, just like a really good vibe for anyone who's ever like kind of been in that scene. I'm just now kind of like finding it, so now I'm like, oh my god, I know what everyone's talking about. Oh, this is fucking great.
I've seen some of your stories, and like, I'm not a big crowd guy, but I'm like, that looks fun.
Yeah, you should come with us one time.
Maybe.
Yeah,
We'll see.
feel it out.
We'll go talk.
But so yeah, so I've just been, just enjoying my time off and time at work, and I've been trying to learn how to like shuffle and do like some of that kind of like
What do you mean, like?
dance scene stuff.
Oh, it's a dance. I thought you meant like cards.
Oh no.
I was like,
Shuffling
cool.
for poker. No.
Like,
Yeah.
I've seen people do it crazy.
No, yeah, so just kind of in that scene, there's always just kind of been like the shuffling and the running man and stuff like that, and variations of footwork in that sense, and people just look so cool when they do it, and I'm like, I want to look that cool.
No, I don't.
So I've been trying, and someone we go with is pretty good at it, so I've also been like asking them for like tips and tricks, and so I can be cool at the club and dance like that.
Everything I know about dancing comes from old VHSs from the 80s that my dad had. So if you see me dance, it's a lot of like late 70s to early 80s complete nonsense.
Hell yeah.
And it's
I mean, I
not
have
good.
rhythm,
I don't.
so that's a good start. So now it's just like, after working out, my cardio is like dancing to try to learn how to like move and kind of groove and have like a flow to it and like to the music. But that's about it, what I've been up to.
I knew a guy who he did that for his workout, and he got that Just Dance.
Oh, fun. I used to play that as a kid.
Yeah, I guess now
It's a good workout to dance.
that's
and
what
for your mind, because you have to think of the next step you're gonna do.
that's what he was telling me, and apparently it's a good workout. And he was like, I also wanted to learn how to dance, and I can.
Yeah. And it's a lot of micro bouncing, which they say is obviously just like good for your joints and stuff, and lymphatic system and all that stuff. But yeah, it's just like fun. It's like a different hit of dopamine that you get. And you know, I'm not like drinking and stuff when I go out, so it's really just like fun to be with like the music and people you love and just a crowd that's also just there for the
Just
vibes.
there to like hang out.
Yeah, because it's not like a club scene where you're like walk in, everyone's drunk and fucked up, and just like guys posted up against a wall just watching girls shake their ass and trying to hook up. Like it's everyone literally just dancing or on party favors or just having a good time dressing in these crazy fun outfits. Like it's just a vibe. Like it's all about like being friendly and having a good time and enjoying the music. Or a club is just like, oh, you go there to get fucked up. You know, this is like a different scene. So that's been really nice to kind of discover and get into. What type of clubs you be going to, Ted? Huh? What type of clubs you be going to?
So full disclosure to our lovely, beautiful audience. That's you.
That's you, buddy.
So we did have, normally our variety shows are pretty loosey-goosey. But we had one thing that,
I've been dying to know.
yeah, and we decided that instead of, even though you couldn't wait and you did already hound me for questions and I had to be like, we're talking about it on the show. We're talking about it on the show.
You know, but I just needed a little bit to get me through until we got to this.
Yeah. So I don't even know how to like start talking about it.
I would say you.
So I start like a good while ago.
Mhm.
I started seeing this person, and they're really into
Kink world.
kink world
Mhm.
stuff, and never been my scene.
Sure.
You know,
Just keeping an open mind about
Yeah.
everything. Yeah.
and
Hearing about it.
exactly, and you know, I didn't really have like a ton of experience with it, but they were really into it, and so because of that, and you know, not that I'm a Casanova or nothing, but I get around. But I started meeting a lot of these people, and most of them have they got a good vibe,
Yeah.
and
They're very sure of themselves.
yeah, not even just that, but most of them are very like accepting and cool and kind of
Yeah.
down to earth, and they have like which is completely different from what I was taught growing up,
Right.
you know, and being religious and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And you know, it's like you see leather and you go, oh, demons. So we've talked near Austin, but in Austin there's a club, and I won't say the name because I don't know if I should or not, so I guess I just won't.
Yeah.
But once a month they hold a like
Kink friendly club
Yeah.
experience.
exactly. And I guess it's in like a bunch of states, and there's like a bunch of these clubs that
Yeah,
do
there's
it.
these clubs from what I've just like watched videos online of people talking about. The kink community is huge.
Yeah.
There's even like what are those things, like conventions with
Yes.
them. So it's a very, you know, like you said, open, kind of respectful, and just being who you are in like an open setting
Exactly.
place, and it's becoming more mainstream also. And so yeah, there's like these sex clubs everywhere where you can go and either experience your fetish or see what you're into or meet like-minded people who aren't going to judge you for what you are into.
Exactly.
That's not just like vanilla.
Yeah.
Like, you know what you're getting into befriending these people, so you don't have to really kind of worry about that part of being shameful, it seems like.
Yeah, which I think is
I have clients that go to these, and it always sounds like a really good, respectful time, you know? You get there, do what you want to. It's a safe environment. They don't, like, play about anyone being weird or having phones, and then you either go with the people you want to, meet people, and then you leave.
yeah, exactly. And I had like
Probably what all clubs should be like, but they're
yes.
not.
there was like a point where things got a little
Sure.
like
Let's start from the beginning. So
Okay.
how are you feeling?
so
Like I said, I have all these questions. So how are you feeling going into like, okay, I am going to go to a club like this with friends?
I was a bit nervous, as you can expect, because although now my experience in all the kink stuff much vaster than
Right.
it was, you know, like
Before.
a couple years ago.
Yeah.
But because I can say I'm pretty vanilla, you know,
Sure.
pretty standard. But I've also learned I'm very good at accommodating other people's
Interest.
interests. You know, I guess something about like I really like learning things and
Yeah.
learning new skills and then like perfecting them.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got into it, I did like a lot of research,
Right.
and there's like there is like a lot of like
There
how-to
is
stuff where
yeah.
it's a lot more difficult than you would think. It's not
Right.
just like
You don't just go into these things thinking like you can just do whatever.
you don't just grab a paddle and
You just hit
start
a
beating the
bitch,
crap
yeah.
out of people, you know. And
it's an art form in its own way.
It's a lot of it's all like performance.
Yeah.
And so, and I think I kind of like hooked on to that.
Yeah.
And, you know, because I can respect performance, you know,
Yeah,
I've been doing it a while. So I was nervous because one, it's just a new environment. Two, I haven't really been to clubs since I was like a bouncer, and I don't have the best memories from that experience. So, it's just something new, and then
Yeah, you don't know what to expect.
Yeah, and because of the nature of it, it's a public but private experience.
Yeah, it's intimidating.
Yeah, you're not gonna like find a ton of information about it. You're not gonna see pictures. You're not gonna like.
Yeah, it's not some place you'd see off the street and be like, oh shit, let's go to that sex club. Like it's
Yeah.
very people who know, like word of mouth.
Yeah, it's
really
like
is
if you
what
know,
it is.
you know.
Yeah,
And
they don't want just anybody walking in there.
exactly. And then I also didn't like know what I was gonna see because, you know, at this point I've gone to like a couple parties and like
Sure.
talked to other people, but like nothing to the scale of
Yeah.
a club. But
A
then
kink club.
a kink club. But then I had a memory that I always put in the back of my head
Mhm.
and bury it down deep. And whenever I was driving up there, so I was nervous and I was going with some people, and I talked to you about it beforehand, and you were like, "Oh, you should wear a suit and like look nice."
I just always think when you feel like you look good, that helps with your confidence of like being in an environment you
Yeah.
might feel nervous or anxious about, that you at least don't look it. Like
Yeah.
you look confident. I love the saying, you can never be overdressed or overeducated. I don't care like where you are. And, you know, I don't know. I just thought it was a good idea because I think you look good in a suit and it fits your kind of personality. And that's, to me, when I think of Ted, like on a bigger scale, like that's what I picture in mind. Because that's also how I met you the first time.
Yeah.
I met you at an airport with a suit on, and I was like, this motherfucker got a suit on for like a 20-hour flight. Okay, I respect it. So like that's my image of you. But
I remember.
I looked at you and I thought like, well, he has to be confident, one, to wear a suit, two, on a plane, two, for that long.
I remember
And
whenever
not
I
give a
met
fuck,
you,
you
and
know?
you were like, that was the first thing you asked me. I was like, how's it going up, Ted? And you're like, why? And I was like,
Why do you have a suit on? We're all wearing sweats and a hoodie.
and I
Crocs.
was just like, it's nice to meet you too. And you're like, yeah.
That's-
Yeah,
that's
sorry.
beside the point.
I need to know. And I was like, and then I explained to you why I wear suits on airplanes.
And I
which-
thought it was so. Explain real fast why you wear a suit on airplane, please, because it's fascinating. I was like, oh shit, that's cool.
So, if you're really, I had the first time I flew was whenever
Yes.
I went to Vietnam the first time,
Yes.
which was in like
15?
2015,
Yeah.
2016, something like that.
Yeah,
So like not an insanely long time ago.
it's like 9 years.
Yeah, I said insanely, but also, you know, I had never flown like from as a kid to a young adult. You know, the first time I flew, like, I flew before I had like a driver's license,
Right.
or you know, or whatever, flip flop, doesn't, you know, you get what I'm saying. So the only thing I knew about flying was what I watched in movies,
Yep.
and in old movies, they're always wearing
Everyone
fucking
flies
suits.
on a suit.
So I was like, oh, I had never known that people bum it on airplanes. I was like, maybe people don't wear like suits anymore, but they got to be wearing ties and shit.
Right,
and, you know.
Slacks or something.
And then I also thought, you know, because in my head, you know, not to always bring it around. Wait, as you can tell, it's something that's on my mind. But I was like, I have to wear a suit because you wear a suit when you fly. You're supposed to. But also, that was my first time flying.
Yeah.
And then later, I realized that wearing a suit you get treated differently,
Mhm.
especially going throughout airports and flying, because so many people are dressed more comfortably.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting next to this guy who was also, he was kind of overweight, and he was on the trip to Japan, my first flight. I went by myself,
Which is crazy.
and it was just me in a suit with a suitcase full of candy, which is not a lie.
Yeah.
So and then this guy was like, he could tell I was nervous, and he was like, hey, and he was just like, so what are you going there for? And I was like, oh, I'm going to Vietnam to meet people I've never met before for no reason, to hang out. And he was like, oh, that's weird. Do you do that a lot? And I was like, no, first time on a plane, actually. And he was like, what? And I guess he was a businessman who
Flies all the time.
flies very regularly, and he was wearing a suit. And then he got up, went to the bathroom, changed into like relaxed wear, and he was like, so you didn't bring anything to like dress down into, did you? And I was like, no. And he was like, why did you wear a suit? And I told him, and he was like, and like most people, they get a kick out of it.
Yeah. Because you never think of that being kind of somebody's answer.
Yeah.
So it's just like, oh shit, yeah, that kind of makes sense if that's what you've seen, you know?
But then whenever I like kind of, the whole being in a suit does make me feel more confident. It makes me feel more like
Together.
controlled. And then something I also learned, planes can either be really hot or really cold. So dressing in a lot of layers, you're wearing a jacket, you know.
You can take it off.
You can take it off if you're too warm. You can put it back on if you're too cold. The shoulder pads you can kind of sleep on, you know.
It's functional.
It's functional. And then being overweight, I always had this idea of like, because, you know, I would like hear news stories about people like, should they make the fat people buy 2 airplane seats? Or, you know, you don't want to be next to the gross,
Fat, stinky,
stinky
unkept
dude.
guy.
Yeah.
Because that's the stereotype. If you're fat, you're unkept and you don't care.
Exactly. So I started this ritual that I came up with before I went on that trip. And then now to this day, where like I don't eat or drink anything the day before, so I don't have to go to the bathroom. And you know, I do like a full against the grain shave, so that way the hairs won't come back for like the 2 days for the flight. And I'm like packing lotion and make sure I'm like staying good, and wet wipes and all this stuff. And in doing so, I just, even though I am overweight, I have a sense of togetherness and keptness that,
Yeah, and you're against the grain of what someone would think a bigger dude would portray themselves.
Exactly, which hasn't always worked out in my favor, because I remember I went to Washington, and I was sitting on an aisle seat, and then this family came, and then their 2 kids were in the other 2 seats, and then they came up to be like, and they were like, hey, can we swap? Actually, and then they looked me up and down, and they were like, you know what? They're good with you. And because she was going to come up and be like, hey, can we switch seats so I can sit next to my kid? And they were like, you're good.
Oh,
you can
God.
stay and watch them. And I was like, well, what the I don't want to fucking do that. And then I remember looking
I also hate people that do that.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
Either buy your seats accordingly, because you have no wager in like, can I sit next to my kids? Bitch, that's not my problem. You should have booked it all together.
Yeah. And also, like, don't pawn off responsibility
No.
for like this whatever 5 hours we're gonna be on a plane.
Fuck no. Just because I look put together. What if I'm fucking crazy?
Yeah.
What if I'm awful?
What if you know I'm crazy? But no, for real. And then I was just like, and then I looked over at these kids and I was like, did your mom just like fucking leave you here with some guy? And then he was a little girl, and this her older brother, who was probably, I don't know, like 12,
Right,
10,
like a
and he was
preteen.
like, yeah. And I was like, she do that a lot? And she was just, and then he just went, sometimes. And I was like, that's weird, man. I'm gonna listen to a book.
Don't die, please.
Yeah. And I was like, don't lean on me. But anyway, yeah, so
She wore a suit to the club.
I wore a suit to this club,
based on my recommendation.
Yeah, which did help in one instance in that it
Okay.
was fucking freezing.
Really?
I didn't realize this, but it was getting down to like 11 degrees that night or 12. It was like the all low for this winter was this night. And I which I couldn't believe because some people, as you can imagine, Kink Club were dressed in accordance with the club setting
theme.
and not the weather setting. And that blew my mind because I was like, I'm cold and I'm wearing layers. How are you? You are naked.
Yeah. So you get there, and how long does it take you to maybe not feel as nervous? Like, is it like as soon as you get there, you're like, okay, I'm here now. It doesn't matter.
All my nerves washed away before I got there.
Okay.
Because, like I was saying before, I have this memory that I bury down deep.
Yes.
And that's of Thailand, when I went to Thailand.
Oh, yes.
And that's like a whole thing to get into, which I don't really want to get into.
Yeah.
But we went to Vietnam this one time, it was before the time of the best.
Which I wish I was there for all this shit.
Yeah. I probably would have had a better time if you were there. But
everyth's a better time with me.
I didn't know that Thailand, if you know about Thailand, then damn. But if you don't know, then you were like me, where I had heard about it, but I didn't know what the deal was. And the whole thing is that there's some laws that they take very seriously, like littering, drugs, assaulting. Like,
sexuality is not one of them.
Sexuality is not one of them, in that there didn't really seem to be any laws regarding to sexuality.
They're known for their ladyboys, beautiful women.
Yeah, I remember.
They have clubs like that, or shows, I guess.
Exactly, and the first time we were there, I saw something that like horrified me, and which I won't talk about, but it was legitimately disturbing. Like, it was like a criminally bad, and I remember being like, "What the fuck was that? That was not okay." I saw.
I just know of the people that were like opening, beers with their vaginas because there's like a little opener in there and shit like that. Bongos with some
on the
penises.
bus from the airport to the hotel. I saw a man who looked like Santa Claus pick up a little boy, put him on like the concrete lining of a streetlight, and start making out with him.
Oh yeah, that's a thing in Thailand.
And I was like, and I turned to Sebastian because we were with his family on like a vacation, and I was like, "What the fuck was that?"
Yeah, you can get away with the most insane shit
and
in
I was
those
like,
countries.
Exactly, and I was like,
That's where when you see a white man by himself in like Thailand or something of the sort, like a poor Asian country where they could just buy their way out of anything and buy anything, is where you'll find people going after children and shit like that.
Yeah, so I saw that, and like that, again, part of
I don't remember you ever telling me that.
Oh, I
and
thought
if you did, then I just pushed it away.
So I pushed that down. And then part of the tour was they were like, we're going to go see a show.
Yes.
And
I've heard of the show.
Yeah.
Which I wanted to see that.
And the show was like a variety act. It was like a vaudeville act of like tons of different performances of different sexual things.
Yeah.
Of like, there's some things that are like pretty stereotypical, like the ping pong thing and all that stuff. Some of it was legitimately impressive. I'm gonna be honest. There was some,
I bet
there were some feats that I was like, wow, this is like really
That's
good
a
performing.
talent. Yeah.
Anyway, but I blocked all that out because a lot of that trip, the only parts I remember was like when I left the tour with Sebastian's aunt and uncle, and then we just had like a free day where it was just us three.
Yeah.
And we just had a fun adventure away from everything.
Yeah.
And that's like the only part I ever kept in my brain. But so on the way there, as soon as I remembered all it, and like it all flooded back to me, because this was all like, what, like 6 years ago, 7 years ago. It was a pretty good long while ago.
Yeah, at least like 8 or 9.
Yeah.
If it was that first trip.
No, it was the second trip.
Oh, the second trip. Okay.
Yeah. So when it all came back, I was like, oh, wait a minute. I was worried I was going to see something that was going to be like
too
rough.
much. Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, wait a minute, that's impossible.
Because I've seen the extreme.
There's literally nothing I could see that would that would compare to what I've seen. So I'll be fine. And then that it was like a whoosh that completely freed me.
Nice. Good.
It's where when we showed up, they're very strict when you show up.
Mm-hmm.
I got the tickets, and which was a little weird because I was like, I didn't know that you could get the tickets there, so I had to put in this big. I filed a membership for this sex club, which I now have a permanent. I got approved a permanent member. I didn't need to.
You could have just bought the tickets there.
Yeah. So, but I was like, oh, I got approved as a member. I'll buy all of our tickets of these people who are going. So I was like, hey, I have this person's tickets. I have his ticket, her ticket, and then I was just like, and then the lady was like, oh, I was like, take it easy.
Take it easy. So you show up. Is it instantly like a vibe when you walk in?
No.
Or
so
does it just feel like a club?
You check in.
I know they don't serve alcohol there.
Yeah. So you check in outside, and then it's like outside lobby, and then the doors to everything. And then they're like, hey, have you ever been to this place before? And I was like, some have, some haven't. And they're like, okay, you guys are all just gonna go
get the spiel.
Yeah, get the spiel then. So then they have one of their volunteers, you get a wristband.
Are there volunteers dressed up, or they just look like
some are, some aren't. Ours was they were dressed up like a big old sexy Pikachu.
Oh, I love that.
And so that, and then because I had all of my nerves washed away, I defaulted to my usual just joking around. So they were telling us serious rules, and I'd be like, no, because they would be like, they take you in, and then they kind of do like a mini tour where they go, this area is for this kind of thing, this kind of
it's all about consent.
Yeah, this area is for this. You don't go past tapes. She made a very funny thing, like if you go past a tape and get hit with something, whether that be fluid or an object, that's on you.
Yeah.
And I was like, ha ha ha, funny. And then I proceeded to make jokes for almost the entire time, where she'd be like, any questions about this? And I would be like, is Pikachu actually your favorite Pokemon? Or are you just doing this for a bit? And she'd be like, I just like Pikachu. And I'd be like, that's cool. And then, she'd be like, has anyone ever been to like a sex party before? And I'd be like, do you mean have sex? And
or a sex party.
So I was immediately hated. But it was very structured for the beginning,
which I respect. That's how it should be if you're gonna open up such vulnerability to the public.
Exactly. And it was basically like, you're not allowed to bring out a phone at all. It's like, if you bring out a phone,
you're out.
They'll warn you, and then they'll be like, leave. But they have an outside smoking section, like, go outside, check your phone.
Yeah.
Go to the lobby, check your phone.
That.
Yeah, you don't have to. You can easily just not access it.
You don't need to be.
And then there, a lot of it was basically like, if you like this kind of play, go to this area. And
there's a spot for everyone.
Yeah, pretty much. And then there's a big bar, and then tables.
You get water and soda.
Yeah, and energy drinks. And they actually had free water the whole night. They just They just had cups of ice water, just always rotating in and out. Which I'll come back to this later, but a part of me thought there was a problem with that, and I guess we experienced that problem.
Okay.
Can you imagine what it would be having a bunch of open things of ice water just on a bar for people to freely grab? Drugs. People would drug it.
Really?
That's what I would think, and then it kind of happened to us.
Fuck, okay. So.
But we'll get to that
Yes.
in a minute. So when we went, we actually went early and checked in, and then we left, went and had dinner, and then came back. And so, but then when we come back, like I said, I went with like a few friends, one of which was this person who I was seeing, and we all just kind of like separated.
Yeah, did your own thing.
And yeah, well, that's not true.
You had a game plan.
Yeah, we tried to park, but it was fucking ridiculously packed. Like, it was more packed than clubs I've worked. I did not expect it to be that like so congested with people. That like I just parking was like a pain, and I remember like trying to lead in my friend to parking spots, and then he would just be like, actually, I don't like this one, can we go somewhere else? And we did 3 spots before I was like, it's 11 degrees, I cannot
bitch, just pick a spot.
He was like, you're right, just go inside, I'll park. And I was like, okay. So I went inside like freaking shaking. So I go in, and then we separate, and then I just start wandering.
Yeah, feeling it out.
Yeah, just kind of like feeling out, like, you know, checking out all the areas, you know, and seeing some shit.
Yeah.
And
see what the vibe is.
Exactly. And you know, I didn't go there with any like specific intentions. I thought it'd be an interesting experience to,
if anything,
to talk to people, and then to talk about here for you. But you know, like, I walk in, and I as soon as I start wandering around, the vibe was very nice.
Okay.
In the early hours, super nice. There was like, you know, some people like touching me, and I was like, and then
you mean just kind of like, hey, or just like while they're coming by you, they're like touching your shoulder, or your
like
back?
this and all that stuff. And then there was, you know, a very nice person who you know, they were in full regalia and a big leather dog mask.
Oh, cool.
And
you're like, you thought of the weather, it's cold.
Yeah. And that was like touching my shoulder at the bar, and was like,
does that bother you?
I thought it would, and
because even when I like do that, you're kind of like,
I have a weird.
No, yeah, I get it. I was just wondering if in that setting you also felt that way, or if it felt more like open to that.
Yeah, I think no, because I expected it.
Okay.
But I do have a thing where if I get touched when I'm not expecting it touched,
yeah,
it really bothers me.
Yeah.
I think more than it should.
Sure, there's something behind that.
Yeah. But whenever I am expecting it, then
you're okay.
I'm fine. And I was expecting it because I was like, oh, I'm in a club full of people, I'm gonna get touched, especially considering the scene that I'm in.
There's gonna be playful.
And, you know, some pretty ladies called me handsome, which I was very appreciative of. And then, so then I was just kind of like going around, and I talked to some people. I went out to like outside, and then I was talking to people at the bar, and I realized that how I talk to people is not conducive for that environment. Not because it's bad, but there's an air of, I think it's a pretty high stress environment.
Sure.
Because you don't know.
You're very aware of.
Exactly.
You're a little bit more on alert, I guess.
And I think a lot of people are there for a reason. And if someone's being nice, because I like to, whenever I'm like at a, you know,
you're friendly.
Yeah, I like to be friendly. I compliment indiscriminately.
Yeah.
You know, guys, gals, non-binary pals, I'll compliment anyone. It's a nice boost.
Everyone
and if you
likes getting a compliment.
Yeah, and if you do that in everyday life, people will go, "Oh, thank you."
Yeah,
and then they go on. If you do that in a sex club, they think that you want to have sex with them. And then you get really caught up conversating with people. And it took me about 4 or 5 conversations with people.
Where you're like, oh,
I should stop
B.
doing that. Because I would be like, you know, like the first person touched my shoulder. I was like, oh, hello. And they went, hi. And I was like, that's a very nice getup you have there, you know? And they were like, oh, and like, you could barely understand them because it's loud and they have a
fucking mask
on. And they were like, oh, hey. And then I was just, and then they're trying to talk to me. And then they're like, so, and I'm like, I have no idea what you're saying, but, and then I go outside and then I start talking. There was this naked woman who, you know, I was just like, man, are you okay? It's so cold. And then I was just like, I mean, you look great. I appreciate it, but I'm just saying it's pretty cold. Are you okay? And then she was like, oh, are you going to offer me your jacket? And I was like, yes.
I will.
I will. This will wrap around you like a quilt. And so yeah, that kept happening to where I kept getting.
So you're just being like a social butterfly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I realized that because I didn't want to have sex in public with a lot of people. So that's not really what I was there for.
Yeah.
So when people
Socializing.
wanted, I was like, sorry. I appreciate it, but
yeah, not really here to
I'm just kind of hanging out and
feeling it out.
You know, something happens. Oh, there was something I deeply appreciated, which was with your ticket is free STD testing.
That's cool.
For everyone. You go in and
because they want you to be safe and not be spreading nasty shit around.
Yeah, so you take a test, you wait like I think it was 15 to 25 minutes, and then they like give you a little buzzer, and then you come back and you get a card, and your
you
card.
show it to other people.
Yeah, so they can be like, "Hey, do you have a card?" And you can be like, "Yes."
Aww.
Full bill of health.
It's such a cool community that they're so positive about being safe and ask those questions. It's not weird. It's not like off-putting or, oh, you think I'm dirty. It's like, no, I need to make sure.
Yeah, it's like
this is like communication that is.
Everyone around us is having sex.
Yeah, we're
with
on the same page.
Multiple people around us. We kind of got to be a little. Yeah, which I think so for the first while, that's what I really appreciated was because I would talk to people and be like, no, it's my first time, but I've kind of, been, and a lot of people were like, oh, they were just really excited to be talking to someone who was like not
new in the scene. Yeah.
Well, what I learned was that there were a lot of the bad dudes there. You know what I'm talking about? You
mean bad dudes and like I think I'm like a badass dude and I'm hot shit kind of guy, or
like sexually aggressive, going there specifically
just
looking
for that.
So whenever I found talking to people, they realized that they were talking to someone who wasn't here for that, and then was just genuinely like experiencing, this whole thing, and wanting to talk to people about it.
More the social part.
That really loosened up a lot of people.
Yeah, because you're not. I think no matter what probably kink or club situation you get into, no one wants just like an aggressive motherfucker of like, so we gonna fuck or what? This is what we're here for. And it's like, okay, there's still like connection.
Yeah, that's another thing I learned is that if you go to one of those places,
like get on Tinder if you're just trying to fuck somebody.
Yeah, you can have sex really easily as long as you're not like, if you're not, most people, they, in my opinion, who if you just want to have sex, they just want you to not be a dick.
Right.
And no, you're not gonna like try to screw them over.
Yeah.
And if whenever they learn that, they go, "Oh, you're not like a
just
bad
someone with
person."
No militia.
Yeah, they'll be like
malicious intent.
Yeah. Then most people, those especially in that kind of situation, pretty open to it.
Yeah.
But I would talk to like different people because that was another thing too, is there was such a wide gambit of people
Yeah,
that
that's
I
just
wasn't
fascinating itself.
exactly, and I wasn't expecting the range of people and how much they accept everyone. There's like ages, body types, all this craziness. I was feeling good at myself. Some of
Yeah.
these people that are out there, and they're all totally down with it, and
It's
I,
not like the regular club, or it's not like regular dating apps in a sense where
yeah,
it's like,
you're not putting on airs in this kind of place.
no, yeah, it's not like the best picture you have of yourself. It's not like an Instagram model feel. It's not like, oh, I'm, the prettiest of the prettiest. It's like, no, this is actually what most of normal people look like. This is what normal kind of society is like.
Yeah.
And it's not this like picture perfect look or persona. It's more raw, I guess I'm trying to say, it seems like. So I've even had, like I said, clients go into those scenes or on certain dating websites that are more kink friendly. And they'll even say like, no, you won't really find like an Instagram model on there. Like it is your more average kind of person, but not in a bad way, but you're not having to filter through those kind of people where it's like, oh, she's just like the most gorgeous bitch in the world and who knows what she'll be like or what she wants out of this really. So it's a lot, like you said, a lot more open kind of field of people.
You also learn that there's nothing that doesn't do it for somebody.
Exactly. There's something for everybody.
I talked to some people that I was just genuinely interested into. I was like, so this really does it for you. And I was like, and not like shaming. I was just genuinely fascinated.
Yeah.
Like, I talked to, there was you could spot him as soon as you walked in because there was a guy who, bigger than me, was in a custom Santa Claus outfit. With
not
like
the dude from Thailand.
no,
I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
With a Santa Claus outfit that was like a cape, a Speedo, and all these like bells, and you could tell like hand sewn, all this stuff. And then he was just like walking around being jolly and nice and going ho 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 and being like a Santa Claus and giving out condoms.
Yeah, I love that.
And I was like, do you do this like a lot? He was like, every month.
Oh,
Do this every month.
Kind of his little thing.
Yeah. And
awesome.
and then the people who I came with, we would like get back together. We would like all come back together like every hour or so. We would meet up at one of the tables at the bar and be like, all right, what's going on with you? What's going on with you? This is what's going on with me. And I kept having a frustrating thing where the people who I went with wanted to like get laid, but they weren't talking to anybody. And I was like, how are you not talking to anyone?
Right.
Like, what do you... And I
How
know...
do you expect anything to come out of anything if you won't even, like, start a conversation?
And I know that, like, I guess I have the ability to be more social than most people. Not that I care to be social, but I guess I have that. I can.
Yeah.
But it was just like... I don't know, I was like frustrated because I was like, just talk to someone.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to...
Just try or put yourself out there a little bit.
Go talk to, not even someone you want to sleep with, just talk to someone.
Oh, yeah. You go in with any intention anywhere of like, I want to get laid or I want this. That's not what's going to fucking happen.
Yeah.
And people also aren't just going to throw themselves at you if you're not even physically like open to like talking or starting any of that.
Yeah, I was just walking around smiling like, hey, that's great. Wow, look at that, and then, I just kind of don't turn down like some stuff.
Sure.
And I remember...
Was there anybody that straight up was like, let's go to a room?
There was one.
Okay.
But it was like towards... So there was a point where the night changed.
Right, like you said, the vibe was different early.
Yeah, so in the beginning, it's like, it was so, like, positive.
Yeah.
But then there was this group of guys who came in that really upset the vibe in, like, a real noticeable way. and it was weird because there's like multiple levels. So like if you go out and stand on like a balcony, because there's a whole area that's like tons of beds
Yeah.
by broken off by curtains where people
Okay.
are just banging.
Having a good time.
Yeah, whole time. And there was a lot of people who were just watching because it's like either you close a curtain or you can just leave it open and
People
go.
are into watching too.
But you could see the whole like club and most of like all the other areas. And I remember going there because, well, the big stage area. Again, there were some shows or like
Yeah, what type of like things were you actually seeing? I know you said there was rooms with like curtains you could maybe watch if they wanted you to, or just do your own thing with somebody.
so
Like what were you actually like seeing?
so there was taped off areas that were like zones for different forms of
Yeah.
kinks. So there was one that was like a small stage that had a stripper pole.
Okay. For like dancing and
yeah,
showing off a little.
with a saddle in front of it.
Okay.
Or I don't know the name. And then like those.
Or like those kind of like seated ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
Like a swing?
there was a swing.
Okay.
There were the X's,
where
like the
tied
Thai people. There was massage chairs with electric prods plugged in. That was like the first thing I saw as I walked in, and then I turned, and then there was this just this dude, just violently electrocuting and jacking off this other dude.
That'd be some shit to see.
It was.
I want to go to one of these places, not to partake, but I kind of just want to like see the experience because I'm
Yeah.
fascinated with like what people are into and what a place lets people do, like providing a safe space for people to do what they want to act out. And I'm just like, I just want to see that happen.
That's I got a thought of that.
Yeah.
Because during one of the whenever group got back together, I noticed that people, they would come in dressed and then they would go change into their full whatever, do their thing, and then they would get dressed, and most of them, and then leave, and most of them, they looked so bad when they were getting dressed and leaving.
They
Like,
looked bad, like their clothes, or they just looked bad.
they looked so like hunched, tired,
Defeated.
and I made a joke that was real, and I was like, to me it seemed like the people who were leaving like that, it was like, because it's only once a month, that all I could think of was that they're like, oh, I don't know why, but I can't get off unless I'm getting
Yeah.
violently whipped in
Like
front of a
it's-
crowd of
Like
30
it's built
people.
up for that month, and then they're like exhausted afterwards.
Yeah, then they, then they're like, it's the only thing that can happen. I don't know why. Then they go get it, and then as soon as it's done, it's like this. Oh my fucking gosh! And then they're like just like draping their coat on and like
leaving.
pulling up their pants, and they're just like hunched over with their bag, like walking.
I'm imagining if that's the kind of heavier shit you're into, it's gonna take a lot out of you.
Yeah,
Because you're also probably, in a sense, performing for other people.
exactly.
And that's exhausting.
There was this one fella who, so that was like over on one side, and then the other side of the club had some more extreme stuff.
Okay.
So there was like an area where there was no like waste play areas, which I was very appreciative of.
Oh, no like piss play or
Yeah.
rainbow play and stuff.
Yeah, they call it water sports apparently, which I'm not a fan of. And
They didn't have that.
no, but there
Okay.
was an area for blood,
Oh.
where if you're cool with blood,
I'd rather have people pissing.
which that's what I got propositioned for,
Uh,
because they were like, "Are you in this?" And I was like, "No, but I don't care about bleeding." I was like, "You could bleed me any day. I wouldn't give a crap." And then a lady was like, "Really?"
you don't say.
And I was like, "Yeah, honestly, I don't care." And I was like, "We could all, everyone could do with a good bleed every now and again," which is true. Donate blood. And
Ta-da! I can't because it'll scare me.
so, but I was off the more extreme side.
But you still said no to her.
I said no, yeah, no, because I was like, because one, it's not my thing, but two, it was the end of the night, and I'm like, if all I'm gonna get out of this is to have to undress out of the suit just for some lady to make me bleed, and then be like,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Be like, okay, cool. This did nothing for me, but I guess it was my good deed for the night,
you,
and that my
yeah.
friends are waiting to leave.
Yeah.
Because at that point I think it was like 1 a.m, and
Okay.
I was like, if you had talked to me like an hour ago, I probably would have been like, sure, I'll be nice. I don't care. They got band-aids. I really don't care.
So did y'all leave because those dudes kind of brought a bad vibe and everyone was leaving, or it was just like
No. So by the time these dudes show up, it was like it just kept getting more and more packed.
Okay.
And there was this group of men who showed up who were
Aggressive.
they were like because I don't know how to put it sensitively, but
You
they
don't
were
have to, fuck 'em.
they were not about the vibe.
Yeah.
Like, I think what it was someone had told them about this place, and
Like they weren't part of the community
No.
in general. They just heard of this place and thought, oh, we can like get our rocks off or something.
yeah, and
I'm surprised they didn't filter them out and be like, you gotta go.
I think if you're dealing with that many people, because it was like hundreds of
Okay.
people, that it's just like, all right, go.
Hard.
And it was this big group of dudes, varying ages, and they were all just like screaming at each other, but I didn't understand what they were saying because they were speaking a different language.
Okay.
And they were just like screaming and like full pointing
Oh,
at different
no.
people. And I was like,
It's being obnoxious.
what are you doing? You don't do that in this
you don't
kind of
fucking
place.
point at people.
I've never been at this kind of place. I don't know you don't do something like
Yeah.
that. And then it kind of culminated to where we were in that area. In this group, it's already a pretty tight club of like space-wise.
Yeah.
Because there's so much to have space for so many people to do this kind of thing that already it's just going to be tight. And then you put in all these people that like this alley of beds was a very cramped situation. And these dudes come in and then they like block off the doors to like leave. And there are these two different couples and then another like people doing an exhibition in the room next to it that's like it's all like glass windows and seats so you can see, and then the other place was just like curtains with beds, literally like less than a foot away, and they're all like holding, and then the volunteers like bouncer dudes like, hey, you need to
like
move.
not block this fucking
Yeah,
door.
people need to be able to get through, and then they're like, whoa.
Fucking idiots.
And then they're like trying to like reach out and they're like, no, you can't do that. No. And
touching,
they're like, oh. And then one of them is like, there's a curtain right here, and there are these two people going at it on both sides, putting on a good show. And then this dude just whips his shit out and starts
Winging it.
going at it and then like literally like he's a freaking goalie in a soccer match, like trying to body block people, going back and forth.
What?
Like, and then
That's crazy.
and then the volunteer guy who was trying to keep this group of people who
He's
had
kind of like a bouncer.
that's the thing, is I think that he was just like supposed to keep an eye out,
Okay.
to where then he had to go get a bouncer.
I'm
And
glad they at least got some.
then they go get, the actual bouncer dude who you can tell is like the bouncer dude. And then the group starts body blocking the bouncer dude while this dude is doing this. And I was like, and then the people who are like going at it are like, they're like, whoa, what
the fuck are you doing, bro?
They're like, you don't
don't get to do that.
yeah, that's not how this works. And then he's like just looking around, and
Ew.
then that's whenever it was like, all right, everyone needs to like they just stopped.
Yeah, you're killing the vibe.
And then like they were like, then they start yelling at these people, and then they get like the bouncer just starts like grabbing people.
You're out, motherfucker.
And
Which I respect that a place like that does throw people out like that.
Yeah, is
Like they're maintaining who needs to be there.
and then the other groups of like the dudes who came with were like, "What are you doing?" I'm assuming that's what they're saying is
Yeah.
I couldn't really hear and they weren't really speaking English. But they're yelling and just like going off and they're like, "What are you?"
You're like, maybe if it was Vietnamese, I could understand now. But
Yeah. But they had like been causing
problems.
like just going from area to area,
seeing
like
what they can get away with.
yeah, like pushing it until it was like they found their way up there where because to me I don't really the sexuality of hitting someone strapped to a big X,
Not for you.
it's not arousing to me. If that does something for you, that's fine, but I think it was kind of like that where they were looking for somewhere to like really be aggressive.
Yeah.
That they were just going from area to area pushing it.
Yeah.
And then when they got to the area where it was like, oh, these are people are just having sex, then they all started losing it. And to a point where it got like dangerous and uncomfortable.
Do you think, and obviously you can't like speak for them, but just from like your perspective, did it seem like they were there to push it because they also wanted to be sexually aggressive, or you think they were almost there to like shame and cause problem?
I think they were literally there because
like obviously that dude was wanking it, but it seemed like a very tactile kind of thing they were doing.
I think that culturally a lot of cultures are kind of prudish and sexually stunted. And if you
we are as a country.
Yeah, and if you take a group of,
rude people,
sexually aggressive people and put them loose with a group of like-minded individuals who are supporting that aggression into a place that there is sexually charged aggression, whether it's controlled and safe, but they don't recognize that or understand the rules behind it.
Yeah.
They're not going to, I think it's like almost like a primate thing that's going to flip of where they don't respond. They don't realize they have to respond to these events with rules.
Yeah.
And
I think it's a free-for-all.
Exactly. Okay. And
they think it's just like, oh, it's a fucking orgy and everybody can do whatever they want, where it's like, no, even orgies are like respected and you talk about what's going to happen and there's rules and boundaries.
Exactly. And I think that was something that because they didn't do any research or have any understanding,
they just heard of a place and they're like, oh shit, we should go to that.
Which you could also kind of tell with how they were dressed, because it was like a lot of dudes in jeans with polos and the puffy vests, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're like,
not your vibe.
This is not where you're supposed to be. And I'm sure it's like they heard about it.
Yeah.
They came here. They didn't
thought they could do whatever.
Yeah, and then you don't really give any credence to the rules or what's supposed to happen. And then it was like, all right, and then like
they rally them up.
Yeah, then they rally them up and they're like, all right, you guys gotta go. And they kind of put up a bit of a stink, and then they left. And then, but you could tell.
Were any of the participants being like, y'all need to get the fuck out of here? Or was it mainly the bouncers having to like control, or was the community also like, y'all gotta go fucking go?
The community was like, what are you guys doing? Until the guy pulled that shit out and started, wanking it. People, like, some people were like, hey, what are you guys doing? What's going on? This is it. And then when that happened,
still calling them out, but kind of
when the line was crossed, that's when everyone was like, nope, you guys
gotta fuck.
Yeah, everyone was like, back up.
Yeah.
Bring in the people. And then they brought him in, and then they were like, yeah, okay, what the hell are you doing? And then, but like I could see standing up there, like, when this group of people was near a place, you could tell people like puckered up.
Yeah, they weren't comfortable.
Yeah, and then
they could tell they weren't supposed to be there.
Yeah, and I was talking to this what was their name? Can't remember their name. But I was talking to them for a while, and I was like, "This is my first time. Is that normal?" And then they were like, "No."
That's what I was gonna ask, if they're used to that, or I mean, I guess if it's once a month, you're gonna always get just shit people.
I remember she was like a special needs teacher.
Mhm.
And she said I look like her wife, which I was like, and I was like, thanks. And she was like, it means you're pretty. And I was like,
Okay.
I guess. Thanks. Guess so.
But she said that wasn't normal.
Yeah, I was like,
Or-
is that like okay? That didn't seem okay to me. She was like, no, that was not okay.
Yeah.
That was not.
What we
Yeah, and
condone.
I was like, does that happen a lot? And she was like, sometimes.
Of course. Yeah.
Which I was like, okay.
There's shit people everywhere.
And then I remember, which I wish I could remember her name, because I talked to her for like 45 minutes. Because I guess she was very into the community and into the scene, but in like that was a lot of, I didn't realize this, but a lot of people, this is like all their hobby. Like it's
because you can't be like, most people can't be like that in their every day to day or at work or whatever, so that's their one time to like express it and
the thing is
do something.
It's not even like about that one time, like they just have a lot of fun doing rope techniques or you know learning about all this stuff, talking to these people. I actually got invited to a mixer, which I'm not going to because it's on Wednesday, but wanted to go to a mixer with like a bunch of people where they just like hang out and talk about like different stuff. And I was like, oh, it's like a book club, but you know,
it's a community of people that you know you can be yourself around.
Yeah. And so
you left soon after that incident?
So we were going to we had planned to leave at like midnight, but a friend I went with, he got one of the waters like I had said earlier. And so I went with this friend, and he was pretty nervous, and he's not the best. He wasn't like crazy nervous, but he was like, I don't know how to engage socially without alcohol. So he brought like a little bottle of vodka that he drank before we went in, and then it was like,
we're off.
This thing is, we were there for like 4 hours, and he was like, I think there's something wrong with me. And we were like, well, what happened? He's like, I don't know. He's like, I got one of those waters, and I was like, he's like, because I was so hot and so thirsty that like I was drinking it, and then I was like, there was like some white stuff that I was like spitting out. And then I was like, are you serious? And he was like, yeah. And then he's like, I threw it away. But I feel like I've been too fucked up for way too long.
So you think you like drugged or
I
something?
think someone put something in it, because he was like, I've drinking that much before, and I'm usually good within like a couple hours. He was like, it's been 4 hours and I'm not good.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not fucking good. And I was like, how much of it did you drink? He was like, just one drink. And then I spit some stuff out, and I was like, I'm not going to drink this. And
did y'all tell the people that worked there?
No. Okay. At least I didn't. And so then and then at that point I was like, he was like, I'm not good to go. Well, he was like, I'm not good to go yet.
Oh.
And he was like, I don't want to like leave like this, because he drove, and he didn't want anyone else driving his car. He was very poignant about that, and which made sense because we were going to be there for like 4 hours, and he should have been fine, but it seemed like he was drugged, you know, a little bit anyway.
Yeah.
And then also, that was our last meetup that was whenever I was like, you guys need to talk. If you want to hook up with someone, you have to talk to someone. And then one of my friends actually went and started talking to people, and they were able to hook up.
There you go.
Like, immediately after. But, you know, and then I went and there was these two girls who did they did like a full show on the pole dancing. And then they went outside, and I talked with them for a while, and I was like, that was so fantastic.
Yeah.
Because they did it like tandem. which I've worked some strip clubs before.
I've been to like a variety show, um, where they have, you know, burlesque and then dancing or these aerialists, but it's all very kind of sexy. And there's like two people on a pole and it's so in sync and it is like, oh, it's beautiful.
I've only ever worked like dive strip clubs where, you know, not to be stereotypical, but it's like, it's literally just like a lady
Just
coming
kind of dancing around the pole.
around the pole.
Holding on to it.
Yeah, and like getting a couple bucks. Why, you know, some real sad looking dudes are drinking beers.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so when I saw that, I went outside to cool down because they had like this propane fire pit for like people to smoke and then kind of hang out. And then they came out there to smoke, and I was just there to like take a minute, cool off. And then I was like, that, when I told him, I was like, that was amazing. I was like, I haven't seen something like that. And then they were like, oh, really? You never been to a strip club? I was like, not a nice one. And then I talked to him about being about, you know, and
Yeah.
how it was. And then again, you know, I think just showing appreciation for the non-sexual side of this stuff seems so new to people I was talking to.
Yeah.
Because there were so many people that I'd be like, who had these amazing, like, hand, like, crafted stuff that I'd be like, wow, did you make that yourself? And then, you know, they should be like, yes. And I'd be like, that's incredible.
Right, it's just like
did
the
you get
innocent.
the stitching on that, you know? And I think a lot of people really responded to that in a positive way.
That's nice.
But,
so how did the night kind of wrap up?
so the night wrapped up with all of us kind of being like, do you want to go? 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 And
With
I was
your
like,
friends?
yeah. And waiting for,
To feel better.
yeah. So then he felt better after like another hour or so. And then my other friend got finished hooking up and they were like, hey, she was like, hey, did you see I did it in like the show place. And I was like, no. Why would I was like, I wasn't up there.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, I felt really proud of myself.
Oh,
I was like, you know, good for you. That's whenever the blood thing happened, where this chick just came up and I was just like, there was a guy who really respected his deal because he looked like a 1900s circus strongman, where he was like he had the mustache, like 7 feet tall, built, slicked down hair, you know, and he, you know, just like walking around with the bracers and a Speedo. And he was doing this thing where they had do you know like a heavy bag stand?
Yeah.
They had a heavy bag stand where you would put on these like cuffs, and then go on it, and then, you know, people would impact play is what they call it. And then he would invite the woman he came with did it, and then he would invite different women to come up and then like just start hitting him in the stomach.
It's like being hit.
And you could tell there were some, you know, women going up there working some stuff out and having some emotional responses, and he just seemed and he would just be smiling and be like, great job, and he would give him a hug and like hold up, you know, they would put on boxing gloves and he would like hold up their glove and be like, yeah. And it was almost like this guy was giving out free therapy sessions. And I was watching, you know, these women come through putting on boxing gloves, just like decking this dude in the stomach, and him being like, good, you can go, come on, harder, you can. And I was just like, all right, guy, way to make people, you know, way to make some people feel good about themselves. And then this woman came up to me and was just like, hey, and then just like wiped her tits on me, and I was like,
not wiped.
yeah, I mean, I don't know how else to put it, because like I was like, she was like, hey, and I was like, hello, and then she just went, for our YouTube listeners, and she was like, hey, and I was like, all working your fucking territory?
Yeah.
What the hell was that?
That's hilarious.
And then she was like, so what are you? And then, I talked to her for a little bit, and, that's when the blood thing happened. And I was just like, and
if you would ask me earlier.
yeah. And I feel like, but, all in all,
Was it a good time?
I think, yeah, it was a good time. I definitely think it was something that I've been invited to go again.
Yeah.
And, I think going another time would be more comfortable.
Of course. More familiar.
Yeah. Just because, I think a lot of people are tense there. We talked about it before, I think, where you were like, a lot of people go in groups.
Yeah, I was told that place is more so like you come with people you want to play with because we provide the space and the equipment for it.
And a lot of people
Instead
just don't
of
have access to this kind of stuff.
Yes. I mean, how many people you really know have like a sex dungeon at their house? Not too many. It's expensive. Like there's a whole Netflix show about it, and you're like, damn, these motherfuckers are spending money for these things. Or even when I've walked in, or like we go to like little sex stores or leather stores, those little get-ups are hundreds to thousands of dollars, and you're just like, holy shit, this is not like a hobby that's just anyone can afford.
Yeah, there was a couple stalls of people who like you can buy cell space where you set up a table and like sell your stuff. There's a dude who sold like flogs and cans and stuff.
Like little vendors almost.
Beautiful craftsmanship.
Yeah, but expensive.
And and I was like, how much does this something run you? Because I like woodworking, mostly like furniture building. And then he was like, I was like, do you just pop this on a lathe, do some hand polishing? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, oh yeah, I like to build furniture. And he was like, he's like, if you make some stuff like this, he's like, we make some serious money doing this. And I was like, how much does this cost? He's like, our smallest product, this one. And he was like, and he was like, it's all handmade. And I was like, I get it. You're doing this. And he was like, yeah. He's like, but I hand toughed all the leather, do all the sewing, seating, custom resin work. And he was like, and our smallest one is $85 for, like this little wooden handle with some leather on it. And I was like, man, I could do some custom I could do some serious, for like really easy making paddles or whatever. And, I guess you can make some really serious money in that. But then he was like, yeah, this all the way goes up to, like over $1,000 for
one piece.
Yeah. And then and then the leather stand too.
Yeah. Right, so it's really, I've heard, a space just for people to express those needs or itches that they want scratched, and usually most people, I would say, have it with people that they want to do it with, or you already have that connection or relationship, from what I've heard, instead of you're not solely going here. It's not like essentially maybe it's just like a swingers night where you're only there to hook up.
Yeah.
It's more of like, we're providing you a space to do these things you want to do.
Yeah,
with people
space.
you are bringing along because you don't have access to it. Not just everyone's solo, just like, all right, what are we all finna get into? We don't know each other,
Yeah, there's definitely, you can,
of course,
meet people there. Obviously, like I did.
Yeah.
And I
Chit-chat.
have very little confidence. I just am pretty good at talking to people.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's just people who want an environment.
Yeah, a place.
And then there's some people who, they go there to, I saw a good couple people where they would talk, and it was some people would go to find someone to do stuff to. And, that's all they were looking for.
Yeah.
And I think that is also something that, you have to understand is, for a lot of these people who are into these specific types of things, you don't go there being like, oh, if I do this thing, I'll get laid right afterwards. It's like, no, you go there for a purpose.
Yeah.
And then some people, you find someone who's also into that specific kink, and then you go through it, and then it's done.
Yeah. It seems like it's not what like media and Hollywood have really built it out to be,
Yeah,
of this like just exploitive kind of scene,
yeah,
where I'm sure there are things of that nature, but again, it's not
yeah.
really what is
You're not gonna
norm.
see like 100-person orgy.
Oh yeah,
You know,
at this one little place in this one little town,
yeah, it's it's not like that. It's a lot more.
Which I'm sure that's what people like those dudes that got kicked out are imagining. Like they're thinking of these pornos or these movies where it's like, oh, that's what it's gonna be like, and you're just like, that's
Diving
not.
into a pool of bodies.
Yeah,
or
you're
something.
like, it's not what you usually make it up in your head to be, because just of what you've seen on TV.
Yeah, it's
The stereotype.
it's a, and that's another thing too. You have to understand is that there's no alcohol or
Right.
anything on the premises, so it's not like people are like getting fucked up and
No.
like doing whatever. They're
Because
there.
that's big on consent if you're going to be like playing with blood or things
Yeah.
of that nature. You can't be fucked up.
Yeah, but yeah, it was.
So you left feeling like that was a good experience?
Yeah, I think so. I definitely left. I had a much larger respect for like the community
Yeah.
and the vibe because of how like everyone was accepting of everyone, everything. They were all like, I didn't meet or talk to one person who was an asshole.
Good.
Everyone I talked to was very nice. Me, some of them a little on guard.
Yeah.
But you could tell it's like, start talking to a beautiful woman who is naked, they're gonna be a little bit standoffish
Yeah.
until they're like, oh, okay, you're not,
Yeah, they feel you out a little bit.
you're not trying to be incredibly aggressive.
Yeah.
Also, you have to be aware you're gonna see a good bit of naked people,
Yeah.
and
People are comfortable with
and like you said,
how they look.
they're not all models. You see real people.
Yeah, you see
like,
real people.
yeah, of every
Shape, color,
yeah.
size. Yeah.
yeah.
I love that. I've been so excited to just hear about it. That sounds like a really good experience.
Yeah, it's definitely something to get my like the prude part of my brain over.
Yeah.
To be like, oh, okay, this
isn't what I was taught or made out to be. That makes sense. And I think a lot more people need that. I mean, I think in general, especially in the US, religion has just put such a cap over sexuality, and it's repressed us so much that people can barely go out like in a fucking shorts and tank top without people being like, look at that fucking whore. And you're just like, oh my god. Like I feel sorry for people who feel like that.
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine a life where you are so close-minded and judgmental that you can't even see somebody being comfortable with who they are, and it's just like disgusting. Whether you think it's because they sleep around or they shouldn't be wearing that, or whatever your reasoning for yourself is. But deep down, we're animals, and what do all animals do? That, we all have this sexual nature.
Eat shit and fuck.
Exactly. So I think that's awesome that you just kept that open mind, especially just with any religious pastor or mindset you've had, and you went into it open-minded, just like, let's just see what these people are like,
I think
what is this community that I've never been around.
Yeah. And
I'm sure most of those people are just teachers and lawyers and doctors and normal everyday people
that
you would never guess. But as soon as some people find stuff like that are like, ew, where it's like, but I'm the same person. We all have scratches we want itched, and that's just who we are as people.
When I talk to
and if you're not into it, then fuck off.
Yeah.
Don't like say anything or be judgmental, just it's not your thing, but don't knock it just because it's not your thing.
That teacher said something where she was like, I don't talk to, a lot of people in my like my real life, or
my vanilla life.
Yeah, my vanilla life outside of this. It's like, but I've seen some people here, and when they see me, they're like,
I didn't know.
And they're like, you're into this? And you're like, and then she was like, yeah, do you not like sex? And then it really made me think of like, that's a really good way to put it, that past me, who was very prudish, very closed off, and would consider, some of this stuff almost like negatively.
Yeah.
If not just being like fully negatively.
Yeah. Just a full no.
Yeah, I was trying to give myself credit. No, 10 years ago, I would have been like,
I'm praying for
Jesus.
all of you guys. Standing outside, if you want to be saved.
The devil lies within that
Exactly. Repent.
So, but yeah, I think realizing that now, like, yeah, like, they're just hanging out and having a good time. It's like, what the hell's the damn problem?
Yeah, and to me, it's like the sense of people that are into D&D. You hang out with those people, you have a good time, you meet up, you have this experience. It's playful, it's imaginative. That's what everyone else is just doing, in their own sense of what they are into, whether it's that, video games, art, running, dancing. Like, it's all the same.
Yeah.
It's all expression. And that's all it is. And it makes you feel good when you're confident, I think, in what you like. You don't give a fuck what anybody else thinks. To me, that's a whole new level of, like, being authentic that a lot of people never get to because they're so suppressed.
And I think you can see how much those people, like you said, they really like connect and care with it as their hobby when you see how much work they put into themselves for this kind of thing. Because like there was a big difference between the chick who's just walking around naked versus the chick in full regalia, like all this stuff, and you'd be like, you look one way. Well, me as a
bystander,
as a straight bystander, I'll be like, I would look and be like, oh, that's whoa,
yeah,
what?
Exactly. It's an art form.
Yeah,
and I think as a society, if we even just expose ourselves a little bit, like a sprinkle here and there, like talking to people or going out and doing it, that's all we really need to just be more accepting. And it'd be like, it wasn't that fucking easy. It's like people that kind of like the talk we had about if you've never been exposed to, like, let's say gay people and you've only been taught that they're bad or it's this or it's a sin, and then you get around somebody who's like, wow, they're actually really amazing. Oh, and they're gay? Do I still have that same feeling?
Yeah.
It makes you question what you've learned. And I think that's the same thing. We've all just been taught something, and until you're
taught that those people,
yeah,
because they like this kind of things, are aggressive in all other aspects of their life, when they're not even really aggressive in like that aspect.
No. And I'm actually more fascinated by like I said, clients that I've had open up about it, and I have clients who are in like poly relationships, or whether it's like they're the partner of someone married, and the level of communication that they tell me about. Again, I know it's not everybody, but the ones that it does work, I've never seen that level of like communication. Like, you have to have it, and most people aren't good with it, but they try it anyway. But the ones that make it work, you're like, holy shit, I've never seen someone so open, someone so communicative, someone so across the board, check how you would make something work.
Yeah, I think that communication, like you were saying, that's something that really helped me, not only in this situation, but like when I started getting introduced to this world.
Well, here, real fast, I feel like on this topic of all of it, I think another reason it has such a bad rep is because everyone thinks of like the extreme.
Yes.
Like, we only hear of like the bad stuff out of things. Like, of course there are people who use this community as a way to like exploit people or get what they want or whatever have you. Just like drugs, sex, religion. Like, it's always the extreme that people like see it's all bad. And I'm just like, no, if you guys like see the normal people that actually make it work, it's really just kind of normal.
Yeah.
And other countries that aren't having like a religious kind of base that they kind of hone into their worlds don't have like the shit we look at. Like, they aren't looking at these people
negatively.
Yeah, it's just like like you said, do you not like sex? Do we not all just kind of do this? And I know, again, people's childhoods, trauma, sexual abuse plays a big part in, I think, a lot of people's kinks. But I also find that a beautiful way of, like, let's say you were traumatized as a kid and you got to take some of that power back of something that was stripped from you so young and have this community and people that respect it and make it a safe space for you, you know, taking back your control of your body. And how can people not, like, appreciate that for others, you know?
Right.
So, like, like you said, the communication of it all.
And yeah, I think that was something that I didn't fully understand of before I got into this environment of, you know, not to toot my own horn, but I think I'm pretty good at communicating
Yeah.
and, you know, talking through feelings, whether it be mine or someone else's, and kind of, you know, almost like, what are the brain doctors called again?
What?
The brain doctors.
What are they?
Yeah, what are they called?
Like neuroscientists?
No, like the ones you talk to. I forget the name. It's
Psychiatrists?
there you go. Thank you. You know, I think that almost like a psychiatrist of
Yes.
being able to talk calmly through why someone does something.
And understanding.
Exactly, and being open to that understanding of, like, I didn't understand why someone would want some of these things.
Yeah.
You know, a
Ducted
year
them.
ago before I started, you know, when I started really getting, you know, being introduced to all this stuff. Because even then I would look at it and be like, why would you want that?
Right, whether it's weird or fucked up or
Yeah,
whatever your judgment is on it.
And then, you know, I never considered, like you just said, of some people had to deal with this trauma, and now they can kind of own it and make it their own.
Yeah.
And then almost be able to attribute a good feeling towards it.
It's like reprogramming yourself.
Yes.
In a way. Because I think some people go, like, I experienced some sexual childhood abuse. And for a long time, I just kind of felt like I'm not interested at all. Instead of some people are the opposite, where it's like hyper.
Yeah.
I went the other way, and I just thought maybe that's just, you know, before like therapy and stuff, I just thought like, oh, maybe just that's just how I was born. Maybe I didn't like attribute it to it. I was just kind of like, oh, I'm just not interested in any of that. And it didn't make me feel bad. I just was like, I just don't look at people and go, oh yeah, I want to sleep with them. You know, like I've never felt like that. And I've gotten to a point in like just even like communities on Reddit of, I guess it's called more like demisexual.
Never heard of it, but
it's where
don't know a lot.
Because there's like asexual, where you have like absolutely no sexual desire for anyone. Like you don't want that at all. Like you just want kind of like love and platonicness, but no like intimacy.
Yeah, you want connection,
but yeah, nothing intimate. Where demi is more like you don't look at anybody sexually attractive. Like I can see someone be like, oh wow, they're handsome or beautiful, but I'm not just like, oh yeah, I want to fuck him. Because I've been around people who are like, oh, that dude's so fine, I'd fuck him. I'm like I almost am like, god damn, that's so
Jeez.
Yeah, I'm like, that's so fucking aggressive, you know? To where more it's demi is like, you have to really build this deep connection and then you kind of desire it from them, but it's still something you kind of have to work on, and it's not just like naturally there.
I think
so. It's like once I built like what I built with my partner now is something I would never even look at somebody and want, because I'm just like, you would never have to worry about me cheating because I'm not interested in any of that whatsoever, you know? Like, so I've kind of learned there are a lot of people like that want, and it's not just a, oh yeah, I want to get to know you before we have sex. It's like, no, I have to have a deep connection to you to even think that's can happen, you know?
I think I really get it, because you're explaining something that I feel I can 100 not in the level of extreme of I think you experience it, but you know, as a guy, my fellow dude, shout out. I think that I our place in society to me is like, any woman, you should be like, yeah, let's go. I wanna fuck, wanna go now. Hey, you're
Oh,
hot,
damn.
let's
Yeah.
go. I'm right, but I,
just that high sex drive of
yeah, and
as a whole, it'll work.
yeah, and or it being like like you said, being just looking at a woman, be like, damn,
Like
that's
instantly
hot.
turned on. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fucked right now.
Yeah. You're like, oh.
I don't know if it's because like, I didn't start having sex until later because of religion and all this stuff, and I just wasn't, I didn't expose myself to it until later, than most people did. That I am not that way, and what you're talking about, this is like,
you're like, oh, I feel that way.
yeah, I'm like, yeah,
I mean, I don't like labels at all, and I don't think anyone has to label themselves, but knowing that's kind of what maybe a community of people that feel like-minded as I do was like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
At least there is a word for it.
Anytime I've ever like tried to just do a straight, hook up, one night stand, doesn't work out the best. And
I've not been able. I'm always like, no, not
and
interested.
I always joke with my friend Shuey, my best friend Shuey.
That guy.
That's that guy. Because he's definitely stereotypical in that way. Where like,
he's a man's man. He can hook up. He can just it could just be sex. Yeah.
I've seen him like hit on waitresses, and then it'll go someplace, leave, come back like 15 minutes later, and be like,
got that.
Be like, no tip on this check, huh? And I'll be like, ew.
Ew.
But like we'll over the years we'll like see, I can be like, oh, that chick's hot, and then he'll be like, yeah, why don't you go talk to her, see if you can hook it up, and I'll be like, or he'll be like, yeah, he's like, man, I want to give it to her, and I'll be like, yeah, I want to get to know her.
I want to get to know what her childhood was like. What she likes.
I want to have some nice conversations. Be like,
what type of movies is she into?
Right? You think
you
we
play
could
video
like,
games?
What do you think it would be like too soon to cuddle? And that's just how I've always been, and I've always kind of made those jokes. And then as I became, I don't know if there's a kink for emotional intimacy.
I think they call it no, there is a word for it.
Are you serious?
Yes.
I'm just making a joke. But...
No, because there's different words for people that are like turned on by someone's intelligence, or because they can have like a really good I can't think of it right off the top of my head, but there are labels or words for people who experience intimacy or turn-ons by certain things, whether it's topics or intellect or whatever.
Yeah.
But there is a word.
I can say, and I think that has what is. I mean, I don't know, because for me it's hard to look at myself as attractive in any way, even though I've been told I'm attractive.
Yeah. We always are harshest on ourselves.
Exactly.
Or I think I'm attractive, but I also know I'm not. I feel like you gotta know you're good looking. Like, you have to feel that and like get to that point. But you also have to know everyone's just not gonna find you attractive, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's what most people struggle with. Like, do I think I look good? Yeah, sure. But do I know everyone's not into maybe how I look, or maybe the more alternative look, or the piercings or the tattoos? Of course. But their non-attractance towards me doesn't bother me. I don't think that makes me less attractive. I'm just like, yeah, and I might not be attracted to you either, but that's fine. Like, it doesn't need to go anywhere just because those are your feelings.
Exactly.
As long as you know, like, how you feel about yourself. But that's taught, you have to learn to do that.
Yeah, and I think that's something that, like, if you were interested in this kind of thing but were nervous about going to an event like this, or, diving into this world, maybe don't dive in, dip a toe.
Yeah, a little toe dip.
But
or have someone that is in it that could maybe be that kind of blanket for you to feel like, okay, I can try, but I have someone that's like a safety net to catch me.
I think that from what I saw, is a really big issue is that a lot of and you know, at least from what I've seen,
Yeah.
predominantly male,
Yeah.
it's really it's hard for them to find someone like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know I never would have
Yeah.
looked into this kind of thing myself until I met someone
Yeah.
who was
Opened
into
up
it
that gate. Yeah.
and was like, and then even still, even though it doesn't do anything
For you.
for me,
You sound like a pleaser. Like you're a people pleaser.
first off, I am. Ladies, you know it.
But you're open enough to be like, okay, if you're into it, then, and I know it'll do it for you, I'll try. Where I think just most people in general would shame somebody, and then that person on the recipient is like, see, this is why I don't open up, because people just shame me for
Exactly.
it. And that's not cool.
I don't understand how someone would, like, why
would
you do that?
I don't know. I've never tried a kink shame. And of course, there's always people just judge people naturally. It's only the ones, obviously no one's ever asked me to do this, but just from listening to other people or other podcasts or videos of people in the world, it's the ones that are like poop play and scat. Those are the ones I'm like, that I don't get. And, you know, I'm trying not to be judgy, but I'm just like, how do you get to a point where you're like, that's what gets me?
Yeah.
But again, yeah, I could never imagine just
not trying to yuck your yum,
yeah.
but it's
a little yucky.
it's to me, that's nasty.
But yeah, but I would never. Yeah, I could never imagine how someone would just be like, "Ew, what the fuck's wrong with you?" Like, that's just so awful to be towards anybody. And if they're being vulnerable enough, opening up to you, and that's how you respond. But that's why these communities, or like, you know, pages like FetLife are good, because that's kind of already on the table of, hey, I'm kind of into these things. So you're not just gonna get the most vanilla person.
You know what's crazy? And I just remembered. So this happened a good few weeks ago, and we haven't talked about it because we're waiting for the show.
Yeah.
But I have I've went to visit some friends between now and then this had, you know, they were like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And I was like, "I went to this sex club party." And then obviously that's a big attention grabber.
Yeah, of course.
And in talking to,
because you're gonna live through curiosity, also through other people.
yeah,
Which is kind of what I do. I like hearing the stories or my clients' things that they do and get into, because I'm not into it, but it's still like fun and fascinating to like live through them a little bit.
yeah. And this thing is, you're a very inquisitive person.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, inquisitive. That's
yeah.
the word.
But you are, and you really like diving into the nitty gritty of experiences of other people.
Yeah.
And something that works out really well for a podcast. But when I was telling this story to a group of friends, or, you know, talking about it, and then people who didn't usually ask questions, or their wives were asking me like detailed questions, I was like, oh shit, normal people are into this shit. They're just
They're
so
intrigued by it too, yeah.
repressed that they don't know, they don't know that it's okay to talk about,
or to do, or to, yeah, try at least.
Yeah. So I started doing a thing where, have you ever taken a kink test?
No.
So there's a test you can take.
Sure.
It's a lot of questions.
Is it kind of like the ones that are like, which Harry Potter character are you?
And
then you go through these lists of 50 questions, and they're like, you're most likely a Gryffindor, and blah, 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 blah.
I guess.
Have you never took one of those?
No.
For real. But you know what I'm talking about? How they used to have all those tests of like, which character are you like this? Or which show
The only one I've
this?
ever heard of was Harry Potter. I didn't know there was more.
Oh, dude, they have it for anything and everything.
But I've never taken one.
They're fun to just, at least back in the day when you're on your desktop and you're just like, oh, free little test to see what character I'm like. Sure, I'm most like drunk Rick from Rick and Morty, you know? Shit like that.
So yeah, I guess I'm just missing out on a large
You're just
portion.
missing out, man. Questionnaire.
So this is like a really in-depth test of all of these different like kink and sexual related questions, and then you get a whole write-up of like all of these, like,
Is it kind of like the psychology behind why you might be into it? Or no, like the questions based like that?
Yeah, kind of.
Mm.
And then it's like it gives you a percentage of what are you what are you into.
Yeah.
So and then you ask like tons of questions, and then it's like, oh, you answered this many times towards this kind of question, you are predominantly there's one kink that's like you're a hunter, and they had a space for that at the place where you could like hunt and tackle someone, and that was
Okay, kind of like more animalistic.
yeah.
Interesting.
And so you take this test and it gives you a percentage of, you know, everything from like vanilla to
Yeah, extreme.
yeah, more extreme stuff.
Or experienced.
So I started doing a thing where I'll look up this test and then I'll start doing it with my friends because they have a long version or a quick version. So I went to a friend's birthday. And me, him, my friend Chewy, and then his girlfriend's son.
You know my best friend Chewy?
You know my best friend Chewy? Who's 18. But they were all asking me all these questions, and I was like, have you ever thought about, I was talking to another friend, I was like, hey, have you ever thought about, like, kinks or anything like that? And he was like, no, never in my life. And I was like, really? He was just like, well, I've seen some shit, but I've never really thought about it for myself. And, like, I'm like, well, you're asking a lot of questions.
For someone, like, not thinking about it.
Yeah, and he was just like, oh, I never really think. And I was like, well, let's do this test.
Yeah.
And then we went
fun.
through Walmart buying supplies while I was asking these questions. And now I've done this 3 times where I'll be with a different group of people, and then I'll do this test, and I'll be like,
yeah,
here's
reading
your
about
sexual interest based on your answers,
Yeah.
percentage-wise of how vanilla are you,
Mhm.
how are you into this, are you dominant, are you more submissive,
Yeah.
are you into
Switch, yeah.
which I gotta say, first off, is hilarious. But
Right, it's just fun, playful.
yeah, my point is, I would recommend taking one of those tests before, if you're interested in this stuff,
Mm.
but you don't know
Where to start?
where to start. Go take this test, and then like kind of see how you line up. But
Yeah.
be prepared for some uncomfortable questions, because there are some questions about certain kinks that I don't necessarily agree with. Not to shame,
Yeah.
but like
Some of those like consent rape ones are
Yeah,
kind of like, ew.
yeah, consensual
Yeah,
non-consent
that's what it's. Or the bigs and the littles. Those are also
age play.
Yeah, those are a little.
Those make me uncomfortable.
Yeah, they make me uncomfortable. That's the word.
Yeah, bodily fluids make me uncomfortable.
Feet make you uncomfortable.
Feet make me uncomfortable.
That's another thing. I think, like, I try to respect everyone's boundaries of what they're comfortable with talking about. And I know it really depends on kind of like how you're raised, and I'm all for like, you don't need to tell me every little bit of detail of your sexual life. I actually don't really express my sexual life at all, because I'm just not really into like talking about mine, but I want to, hear about yours, because, I like details and all that.
Yeah. I'm just open about
But
everything all the time, no
Yeah.
matter what. So ask me anything and I don't care. I'll
Yeah.
just answer the
But I
question.
also feel like that is something that should be okay to be
Yeah.
talked about. Like I've met some people, someone you might know, or I've kind of asked them a little bit about that just to, I don't know, I feel like it makes me get to know you a little more. And it's just like, oh, I'm not going to tell you that. And I'm just like, why not?
Like,
Do you know
have
who
you
I'm talking
never-
about?
yeah. What? Do I know who you're talking about? Oh, yeah. Exactly.
And I get it, but I'm also like, I don't know, it makes me kind of feel some type of way. Not that you're like hiding something from me, because it isn't my business at all, but I also feel like, why is it so off topic? Why is it so uncomfortable? Like, it shouldn't be something that is kind of like, oh, we can't, it's so taboo. Like it should be okay to be like, oh girl, I did this, or oh dude, oh, I hooked, it should be like a natural also thing that isn't so hush hush, even though I know it is privacy, but it's really not that big of a deal.
I don't know, because for me, I was so closed off for so long.
Like, did your dad have any of those talks with you as a kid?
Never.
Wow.
I learned everything I know, not now, but
what you did though.
everything. I never had the talk with my parents,
and the
and I
bees.
grew up in a small Texas town that was very marriage and God,
Yeah.
that everything I learned about sex came from that 70s show.
Okay.
It was about, doing it, the fumbling as a teenager. A lot of that 70s show is about teenagers in the 70s. There's a lot of sex stuff. And it was always just doing it. And, and a lot of innuendos, but
Right.
it was enough to learn. But I was never sat down by anyone in my life and taught about sex.
Okay.
It was purely from that show, and then everything that, and then I became religious. It wasn't
Right.
until, like I've said before, I didn't like start having sex until I was in my 20s.
Right.
Which I know there's a lot of people being like, that's insane.
But it's not.
And I'm like, yeah, I know.
It's probably more weird, not weird, but insane for how early some people are losing it.
Yeah, that.
So it's like a double-edged sword. Some people are like, whoa, that's young. Like maybe someone like me versus maybe someone like you, where someone might say, oh, that's crazy for me or you. Like it's all perspective. But
Yeah, I remember I went out.
I find it more fascinating in like a good for you type of way. Because I think I did it younger because it just felt like that's what you did. It
That's
kind of
what
felt
I've
like
heard a lot.
it kind of felt like peer pressure. Like I didn't ever really enjoy it. It just was like, oh, that's what you do when you like somebody. Even though I had the talk very young. My mom probably had the talk with me when I was like 5. And I know some people might like give you the eyes like you gave
like
me.
that, where I'm like,
But it was more not the, hey, this is what you do because you're turned on. It was more of a safety thing. It was like, that's yours. It's called like it was very technical. Like, that's a vagina. This is that. No one touches you there no matter what they say. It's not okay. I don't do it. Dad won't do it. Like, no matter what somebody tells you, that's not love. Like, trying to
unless
be very...
it's a doctor for a purpose.
It was very matter of fact. And my mom also taught me very young that, like, a lot of men do just want that from you. But I also feel like even though I think she taught me it more out of consent, which I feel like a lot of parents don't do, and it's more of like a mainstream thing now. But I think that's kind of what saved me, because, it did happen to me when I was young. But my first thought was, I'm going to tell my mom, because she told me that wasn't okay. So like I was kind of frozen in the moment when it happened, but I instantly knew, no matter what this person told me, it's not okay, it's not love, and whatever reasoning you're giving me, it's not working. I'm gonna go run to my mom, and I know I could go to her and she won't shame me and say it was my fault. I know she, like, she made it sure it was like a safe place. And I think more parents should do that out of safety. So if it does happen to your kid, they can at least come to you and it can stop. And that's what it was. It happened. I told her, it stopped. So I never had to worry about it again. Where I think a lot of parents don't tell their kids that, so they're more vulnerable when someone's like, oh, this is what people do when they love each other. Oh, this is a lollipop, and so you need to whatever, something awful.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of kids fall into that because they don't know what consent is. Just like you don't hug another kid if they don't want to be hugged. It's as easy as that, of you don't touch other people and they don't touch you. And so I think when you're not taught things like that as a kid, or you get like TV stuff or the horrible sex education I got in like 6th grade or whatever, it's like that is not setting
You get a
people up.
slideshow of horrible diseases.
Yeah.
And then they go,
don't have sex till married.
yeah, and they go, wait till you're married.
You kiss, babies. And I'm just like, this is not setting up our society for success, for consent, for what no means, for what you can start and then say no, and it's, like, you don't dress like that and you're asking for, like, that all needs to be taught very young.
Have you ever, sorry.
You're fine.
Have you ever heard of the male, what they tell males on like the religious side? I've been told this, but the whole thing biblically,
I've just only heard like
Eve, tempts Adam, is that as a man growing up in a church, I was told a lot that like women want your risky business and you don't give it to them.
Really?
Yeah. So
Well, I've heard kind of like your woman should be obedient and give you whatever you ask for.
Yeah, that stuff.
Which again is them now abusing and
Yeah,
exploiting and teaching kids and men that, and then they grow up and they wonder why all these women are treated horribly because they're not teaching women what's okay, and they're not teaching men what no means.
yeah. That the more
And they're the ones shaming communities that go to these parties like you do or did and think something's wrong with them. And I'm like,
Yeah.
nah, motherfucker, y'all got something
Yeah,
wrong with
y'all.
you.
there's a reason why your wife has to drink 2 bottles of wine before she goes to bed with you, and then wakes up in tears.
Exactly. Or
Like,
doesn't want you to touch her at all, and you're running around on her, If you just told somebody what you were into and we taught it younger, that it's not this weird suppressive thing, we wouldn't have all these issues.
yeah, and it's like,
At all.
if you, I know, there's just so much like
Yeah.
diving into the systemic,
Yeah.
repression of
Sexuality.
sex in our
society.
society is kind of,
It's sad.
yeah,
Because there's always been like prostitutes.
yeah,
And there's this thing where men are just like, well, she's a fucking whore. She gives out her, her body. And I'm just like, well, who's buying her body? Men. We wouldn't be offering such a lucrative sex business if y'all weren't fucking buying
if there
it.
wasn't a market for
But you
it.
put it on us like we're the problem.
I don't,
Like if we weren't offering it, y'all probably just be fucking each other. Like prison,
or like the Greek army that is very like that is recorded of that being a thing.
Yeah.
Whenever I was religious,
Mm-hmm.
I had a problem with prostitution.
Of course.
You want to know one of the
I have a problem with prostitution that's not consensual, where it's like you're being pimped out.
Oh yeah, that's
That's
a
okay.
different kind
That's
of
a
thing.
different thing. But just sex work in general is
I
healing, I'm sure, for many people.
was talking to a prostitute,
Yeah.
and
That's another reason why I hate when people are like, "Oh, she's a fucking whore." I'm like, "Well, is she actually getting paid for this?" Well, no. Well, then don't just fucking call people that
like,
because
no.
they sleep around.
I obviously, if you may not know this, watchers, but if you known strippers,
Yeah.
in my experience, a good many of the strippers that I have known
Also.
and worked with were also sex workers.
Of course, it goes hand in hand.
And I remember talking to this one. I was fixing something in their house, and they were like, I was like, man, how do you do that? And they were like, I make money. And they were like, you ever sold blood? You ever sold plasma?
You ever donated your hair?
Yeah,
or
like,
whatever.
you and I was like, and at the time I was like, I have sold plasma. And they're like,
Yeah.
you sold your body
Yep.
to a company.
Yep.
What's the difference? And I was like,
Bing. Nothing.
oh,
You put it that way.
yeah, I guess. And I'm like, I guess that was safer. And then she was like, I vet my clients
Right.
very rigorously. And I was like,
So it's safe for them.
yeah, like, I'm sure there's people who are pretty shadily taking blood or other stuff. So,
Exactly.
it's just different, all kinds of. But that was the thing, is I was just like, oh, wait a minute,
Well, it's a double standard.
Yeah, and then
Just because society is women. That's my hot take about people hating, like men hating gay men. It's not the ones that are like not passing as gay. It's the flamboyant ones because maybe they're more feminine. And what do we hate? Female. That's just my hot take, though.
I mean, I could see that, and you like at this, at this event, you don't, a lot more people who are, especially those group of aggressive
Yes.
men who were leering at the women that they
Yeah.
are, these dudes,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know. It's just, to me, I try to empathize with everyone.
Yes.
And even in a negative sense, where I will try to empathize with a bad person.
Right, like, why did they do that?
Yeah, to understand, like, how you could be this way.
Yeah.
And I say impassively. I don't know why someone could do this. In my head, I'm like trying to think of why they would
Why
think
would
this.
they even do that? Yeah.
And
What got them to there?
the only thing that I can think of is that they have a trauma or something that they can't work out, and the only way they can deal with it is they lash out and they try to limit everyone else's because they don't know how to like accept that part of themselves, even if it's not even if you're not necessarily into this kind of thing, which like I said, I'm not really into this kind of thing.
Yeah, but you're open to it.
I'm just experiencing it in, you know, and just to see.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people who don't understand that you can just do that.
Right, both of those can exist. You can be not super into it, but be intrigued or interested in wanting to at least see what it's about before you're like, nah. Yeah,
you can, and then not be like, this is horrible.
Yeah.
What a degradation to our society. Like, if I see someone think, and I've known people who are like that.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing is, I've known people who are like that who now, when I've talked to them privately about it, are like, well, where is it?
Right.
And then
it's like, all secret.
Exactly. And I'm like, oh, you just don't know it's okay.
No one's told them that's fine.
Yeah.
Or you're not the only one that thinks that.
Right. It's like you've been told your entire life that everyone gives a fuck, that when you learn that no one gives a fuck,
nobody.
Then...
And if they do, fuck them. Yeah. They're just projecting.
The only ones who are caring are pretending to care.
Yeah.
Because they're worried that you'll care if they're into it. And it's like...
Well, that's what they say a lot about, like, people who commit, like, hate crimes against gay people. It's actually them because they're closeted and they hate themselves. And they're mad that you're open being yourself. And so they act out on that. And it's just so horrible. And I think that's what a lot of society has done, is projected their feelings about themselves onto other people because they're envious that, like, fuck, they're living their life true to who they are authentically and don't give a fuck what you think, and you want that for yourself, but you won't do it, so instead you just judge them and are, you know, critical of what they are doing when it has nothing to do with your life at all, or doesn't affect you anyway.
Societally, we grow up that we want to be like the cool person, you know, who was like just walking around, didn't give a crap, hanging out, doing all this stuff, and it's like, oh, that's like these.
It's hard not to care.
It's like these people, and then they're like, no, because they're not like the football player in the leather jacket, you know, with the Barbie on his arm, and it's like, no, that's pretty much like, they don't look like that, but that's pretty much what that is, and they're like, fuck you.
Because I feel like they were always I'm sure your school had it too, or every school, but the kids who were maybe more open about being like bisexual when I was in like middle school or high school were labeled as like the weird kids. Because maybe they weren't like conventionally attractive, but again, we're all going through like puberty and shit then. But again, not conventionally attractive like your cheerleader, like you said, whatever. But they have their little groups of like, maybe the girls are kind of on to the girls, the guys are on the guys, or they're switching partners or whatever you are into or experimenting at that age. They were always labeled like the weird kids, but I think from the jump, they were just the kids who did not give a fuck what you thought about them. And I respect the fuck out of that. Yeah. You know? Because I'm sure there are adults today that are very confident, very known of who they are. Have from a young age, and you ain't gonna, like, change them into anything. But you get what I'm saying. Like, these kids have been picked out from even when we were young, experimenting with being young and
then lashed out against because
of that.
Yeah.
And it's just like, see, we've been taught from even that young of an age to ostracize those type of kids and people. And then we become adults and wonder why either we hate ourselves or we don't know these things go on or judge people for whatever they're into because we were doing it as kids to each other, and that's fucked up.
Yeah. And now
like when we're all just trying to figure it out.
And now I can say fully, as someone who did used to judge and did used to care about that kind of thing, I am way, way better off mentally and happy. Not that I have like it all together, obviously. But I'm definitely...
There's just a little part of you don't have to worry about.
Exactly. I'm so much better now, like, being open and like accepting of these things,
Yeah.
and then honestly
Curious.
just like not giving a fuck, and
Yeah.
then being curious. And
I mean, what's better than a group of people where you can all be yourself together?
yes,
Like, there's literally, you honestly couldn't probably tell me anything better than that.
right? And
Like, that community you build is what gets you through life. Like, that you are who you have, you know?
it's true.
Whether it's you're into D&D, whether you're into this game, whether you want to play basketball together, like, there is something
Yeah,
you can all bond over and
you
not
want
have
that
to,
community.
yeah, and not have to worry about, fuck, they're judging me. Fuck, what if they find out? It's like, please tell me about it. I'm just interested,
Yeah,
you know? I want people like that in my life that are willing to tell me what's going on. They're not ashamed of themselves, and they know I'm holding a safe space for them of like, I'm not gonna judge you.
I really
And if you do something fucked up, I'll tell you out of like concern, like, yo, what's going on? You know?
Yeah, I almost wanted to be like almost in like an interview capacity of whenever I talk to people, be like, I do a podcast and I would love for you to talk to me about like, what about this are you into? And you know,
there's a podcast like that I've listened to in the past, where they invite people on who have maybe these extreme kinks or maybe not so extreme, or just in the community, and they always ask, what was your spider bite into the kink community? So they kind of explain what they're into and maybe how it related back to childhood, if they think it maybe came from that. And I've just found it fascinating of like, no, everyone who's not into this kink stuff was abused and used and discarded. You know, there's regular people who had a fine childhood that were just like, no, I'm just into this shit.
Yeah.
Or this one movie when I was 6 made me go, damn, that bitch in leather looked good. You know, like, it's
The Matrix.
Yeah, like, it's those small things that can just do that. Like, again, it's a stereotype of, if you're into that, then something happened to you and that's what's wrong.
Yeah.
Or that's not what it is at all. Or like that guy who was letting women punch him. It could be a healing experience in place for people. And you hold that for others, and they're strangers. And if you can hold that for a stranger, I think that's like the best thing you can do.
Yeah. And you know, just we've been going a little bit. I think we could like,
I think we hammered into you guys just being open-minded and having fun with like conversations like this, and seeing where they go, and learning about yourself or others, and like that goes a long way.
Obviously this is like a really complex topic to really dive into, but I think, you know, it's definitely very interesting, and I think it's definitely something to go into. Well, I had a good time going into it, is what I'm trying to say, and just being open to that and actually talking about it. I think it's a good way to go. But did you have any other questions or anything you want?
No, I think you gave me all the tea I was looking for.
Nice. I will say that I did see this really cool thing where someone vaped wearing a leather dog mask thing, and then they puffed it out and it was like a big cloud.
Oh, hell yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's really cool. And I was like, wow, that was really cool. And they were like, I can do a better one. And then they got really excited about doing a better one.
But see how those little
Yeah.
spots of like, ooh, cool. Oh, look what I can do. You know, it's exciting.
And just accepting, which is a lovely lead into our next episode.
Yes.
Which is dogs.
So first we'll just say thank you guys so much for coping with us through this variety show episode, getting into some fun, open-mindedness about the kink community, or just communities in general that are very accepting of you. A little bit of, you know, sprinkle of childhood trauma that we always love.
Yeah.
And, you know, that we all experience. And I think we, as in me and Ted, hold this space for each other. We hold it for y'all. And I hope you just kind of enjoyed this, like, I think, conversation that is okay to have.
Yeah.
And you know, have it with yourself, have it with others. Yeah, like, don't suppress yourself any more than society already has. So on that note, join us next episode where we talk about the evolution of our furry friends, cats, dogs, and, you know, how we get them to lay next to us on a couch for hours while we talk about a podcast.
If you want to have a bit more insight, we'll be watching the documentary In the Mind of a Dog.
They also have one for The Mind of a Cat. Also,
I saw.
on
I didn't watch
Netflix.
it, but I was like, oh, that's cool. They have a-
Yeah, so watch that. Tune in for our next episode where we get into our furry friends and how
Mhm.
they became our furry friends.
Thank you for coping with us.
Be safe out there, y'all.
Oh wait, and follow us on YouTube, Patreon, podcast
TikTok,
services across the
Instagram.
world. Yeah,
Share us, like us, comment. It's all free.
devote yourself to us in the sense of maybe kink wise. I don't know. That's on you. Just don't approach about it, but keep it parasocial. But give us money.
Okay. Help us out a little bit while
Yeah.
we do these little things for you to enjoy.
Exactly. Those tickets cost money. You want to hear about it? Lay it on. Anyway.
We'll see you next time, guys.
Bye.
Bye.